Shit, didn't realize that I forgot to boot up Warudo. Fantastic work, me. Hi everyone. You know exactly what it is. We're going with Captain Skrunko. Love seeing you. I love that you are also avoiding spoilers. I do that for games all the fucking time. All the time. I'm like, I love you, but I will not fucking be here. Anyway, let me make sure the Fugi box is open, and then we're joining Captain. Hi.
Come.
Come.
Yay. How are you?
Oh my god, I'm so good. One of my besties just like made me wetter than I think I've ever been.
Really? What did they do?
He was singing. It was crazy.
Crazy.
And thank God he said he's not doing it again, because I can't risk anyone else falling in love as deeply as I have.
Well, you never know. If you ask him nicely and bat your eyelashes real hard, he might do a private show.
And I do have eyelashes, and they can bat.
Good morning. How are you?
You know what? I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I'm so good I can't stand it. 6 hours of sleep and a Red Bull and some black tea.
Yeah. I keep getting Taco Bell's energy drink. I think it's like too fucking much for me. I'm shaking every time, but now I'm addicted. Now I'm addicted to the caffeine content.
What the fuck? First, pump the brakes. Oh,
I'll pump.
Thank you. I was very thirsty. Pump the brakes. Did you say Taco Bell energy drink?
Mm-hmm. Everyone's jumping on the bandwagon, and then they drop it as soon as they lose their license with whoever they've made a deal with.
I do not remember the last time I had Taco Bell.
Dude, I get too much Taco Bell. It's pretty cheap as far as fast food goes.
I don't really eat out anymore.
Smart and wise.
Now I go to a Wendy's just because I have no fast food where I live, but
that's right.
In the bigger town, like down the way, right on the edge of my side of town, there's a Wendy's, and it's like perfect. Like, great, I can go on the edge of town, get some Wendy's, go home, and I didn't have to fight traffic, because traffic in that town is god fucking awful. It's so bad.
Is that where you're moving?
No. That's like 20 minutes down the road. I'm moving about 120, 140. No, yeah, about 150 miles away. Ooh. When I move.
Fair. Excited.
Excited. Ready to get it over with, but not rushing it, because that's how you fuck up.
And that is how I fuck up. How did you know?
Yeah. Are you
Grubby Fan
live yet?
I am live. Grubby Fan, thanks for the first time chat. Hopefully I'll make you my fan sometime. Thanks for grabbing third as well. Speaking of new chatters and chatters alike, you want touch tips?
I'm actively opening up a Firefox tab to come knock on your back door.
Ooh. I thought we were saving that for a different website.
Knock. There.
Ah. Sensitive.
Join call. There. It should. Oh, wow. Just randomly decides every once in a while, or Windows Firewall randomly decides, hey, I really want to kill that Firefox tab. Please let me. And I don't know why. All right. That's touch tips. You're docked.
Now, how do we mean that, Space Captain?
Anyway. Baldurs Gate!
Yay! I will boot it up. I'm not even running Warudo. Not because I forgot, but because I remembered that.
Well, I'm gonna turn the music back on. I want to wait till I get in the game to like move the scene over.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it doesn't. The game Baldur's Gate likes to not show what you currently have your your name set to in Steam, it likes to show the name of the Steam account.
Really?
Yeah. Which is
Oh.
mine is slightly doxing. And what I need to do, I need to make an alt account and just tie them in as a family so I can still use my games.
Right. Oh, that's
Is
smart.
what I should do.
Fuck, I should do that because mine is also ancient and doxing.
Yeah. Carney, thanks for the 100 bits. How you doing today?
Ah, look at all those cuties touching tips.
Yeah.
I want to watch the moth, but I want to watch the possum. Well, lucky you, with tips touched so intimately. You can do both.
Yeah. And if you really want to game the system, Twitch lets you have 2 Twitch tabs open and still be counted as a viewer.
Oh, really? What about 7?
Yeah.
No. Shit.
And they used to. Okay, so fucked up. Let me do my Dan Clancy bitch fest real quick.
Please.
While we have a minute. So, used to, you could have as many tabs open as you want, but you would only be counted as a viewer in the 3 most recent Twitch tabs you had open. The 3 last ones you opened, you would be counted as a viewer in those. Then they changed it. You can now only have 2 Twitch tabs open and be counted as a viewer. If you have a third, it doesn't do the old default of counting you in the 2 most recent. If you have 1 extra one open, it doesn't count you in all of them.
Oh, what the fuck? Ah!
Yeah. It's so fucked.
Carney girl, what are you doing?
I was a degen. I was a degen. I would have like 8 open while playing video games every night.
Yeah, that's fucked up.
And I would just rotate redoing the tabs so like everybody that I was watching that night got a turn getting the viewer count from my computer.
Surreal. Fucking surreal.
So yeah, it's that. There we go.
I wonder if there's ways to get around it. Like if you're like, because I know that sometimes it's like if you've chatted the most recently in one, or like maybe if you give bits, it'll count you anyway. I don't know.
Oh, and to make it worse, all right, Dan Clancy bitching more.
And we love it.
Yeah. To make it worse now, used to, you just came in, once you got counted as that initial viewer, you counted as a viewer. As long as you didn't have the stream volume turned down. You could have the tab muted, but as long as you didn't have the stream itself turned all the way down to 0, it was fine.
Mm-hmm.
Now, who pinged?
Me.
Where's that? Muff.
Carney, you don't gotta do that, but I'll take your exos and blush furiously anyway.
Kicks feet.
Kicks feet, tee-hee.
Tee-hee. But now it's like you just, instead of just counting, it's like every half hour to hour you need to interact with the stream. That's why a lot of streamers have put a I call it the stimmy lurk button. It's just a 1-point channel redeem that's just like, hey, just like press this every once in a while so Twitch still knows you're here.
Wait, that's genius.
Yeah.
That still works?
Yeah, for the most part. It's very like wishy-washy on what works and what doesn't anymore. All right, we are good to go over here. Go to main.
Thank you for the compliment, Carney. The emotes are all amazing. I have all of the people who made them linked down below. And Badass Mamad, I'm sorry, Bug Throw doesn't work unless Warudo is open. But in your heart of hearts, you have pelted me in the face with a plush insect. Oh. And, and that's got to count for something.
In your mind, you did that.
In my mind's eye or whatever.
Yeah, something meditation. Anyway, what did you do last?
Okay. Do you know what's fucked up? It's not fucked up, it's expected. But do you know what's up?
What's that?
Wiki was right again.
About?
Other songs by the guy who did Lent. What is it, Autoheart?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I was talking about this
all bangers.
With Vapor in Vapor's chat this morning. Like, Wiki does not miss on a music rec.
Yeah, it's fucked up. It's crazy. It's crazy how good his music taste is. Hello, Helta. Hello, Ray. Thank you for abusing me in your mind's eye. We could be nice to me in our mind's eye. We could. I've struck again, and there he is, ready to take our praise.
Yeah. I think we
We're
need
pretty
to
much
finish
cleared
mopping up the
out.
outside. We need to mop the outside of the camp up, but we should totally sleep before we do that. And
Fair.
since we've taken out the three amigos, the three big bads,
You want to
we
long
can do
rest
that
it?
and yeah, we can do that and not mess up.
Hell yeah. Do you want to have Shadowheart interact with Brockle, or do you not care?
I don't care.
Okay.
I should speak up.
I'll let you do it.
I'm a cleric. I'll do the cleric thing.
Yeah. Nappy time. Enjoy your nap, Amy.
You know Maglubiet, deity of the goblinoids, hungry for blood and conquest.
Trying to interrupt my prayers? Scared of a real god? You're as goomless as the rest of them.
My god is very real.
Yeah, no. Fucking thunder and lightning.
Good on ya.
Yeah.
Don't matter to me if it's Shah, Gone, or my boy McLovin.
My main boy Maglubiet.
I love this guy.
Yeah.
He's so good. It's so good.
Over our gods and our faith. Makes me sick.
Oh, y'all were talking about Red. I never slept. Oh, okay.
Not once.
So bollocks to you.
Fuck. Okay.
I spotted a trap.
Aha. Oh wait. No. Not me.
Ignorance breeds madness.
No. Wait.
Me with my -2 in fucking athleticism.
Yeah.
Gloves of thievery. Who?
Let's move.
Where is my sword? There's my sword.
Oh,
If not over.
you're an acolyte.
Oh. I got it. Weird.
You and Shadowheart both picked the acolyte background. I forget what I picked. Can I see it on my character sheet? Surely it's somewhere. Background, soldier. That's right. That's right, because I started out with the warlock gig.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Nap before we go outside.
Oh, yeah. Big nap.
Nappy naps. Oh,
Scary,
wait,
scary Maxwell.
Wait. Cancel.
Oh, cancel. I can't cancel.
Okay,
Okay.
I can't. We need to run back in here and let Houston know we're done. I remember that part.
Oh, yeah.
Because we left him behind. I forgot.
Ifrigor.
Sargi.
Oh, missed a few.
That's fine. Ow.
Damn. Well, we're about to long rest, I guess, so who cares?
Yeah.
Crazy that they all got their turn first, though.
Oh.
Every last one of them.
Okay. Well, for my first trick, I did not care for this, so what?
You don't mind
Whack.
taking a little damage, right? Oh, never mind, you're good.
Okay. Tell you what. Oh, I can't believe I'm not feeding that cat. I'm not feeding it.
It's not my
No,
cat.
you can't. It's not my cat. You can't make. You know how expensive cat food is? It's so expensive. It's so expensive. No, you feed the cat. Come.
How weak are you for stray animals? Out of curiosity.
It depends.
Yeah.
It depends.
I think the biggest depender for me
Here-
is how many residents I currently already have.
Here, where I currently live, I am not very. What's the word for it? In this kind of area, if the stray is still existing as a stray, like they are very self-sufficient here.
Mm-hmm.
Like the stray cats in my area, if they're continuing to be a stray, they're fine because they're actively being a stray and surviving while there's a lot of foxes in my area. So it's like, okay, you can handle it, you got it.
Right. I can't. I'm not
And-
strong enough. If I lived in that area, I'd be a crazy cat lady.
And then dogs, no, the stray dogs here are very, very, very mean. We stay away.
Fair and valid.
There's actually a pack of them that wanders around this
Oh shit.
town. Yeah, it's like a gang.
Yeah, honestly, if they're packing together and they're kind of mean, not to be like judgmental to animals who are a little mean and don't understand social courtesy, but I just won't be picking them up. I won't.
No,
I have no sympathy in my
absolutely
heart.
not.
It's like, you're down to fight anyone? Okay, I'm not. I'm
Yeah, I'm good on that.
right.
Let's get out of this. Return to the grove. I'll make my own way there. I can see to some matters there, and we can discuss what comes next amidst more.
But yeah,
bucolic
more likely than
surroundings
not, they were abandoned, not actually stray. People abandon cats a lot where I live. See, here, there's not really any abandoning going on here. These are just like the ones the stray animals you see here are like
Born out there.
several generations of feral.
Yeah. No, yeah, I almost collected a dog just because he was like walking in the road at night and I opened my door and he hopped in and it's like, this might be my fucking dog. Did you just teleport?
Okay. Yeah, I just went over here.
Where is over here?
Oh,
Oh.
I did the camp.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good.
Yeah, because I want to talk to Volo before we sleep. And
That's right, you're
Gale
getting the eye.
looks hungry.
All right, I'll feed our boot munching cat.
Yeah.
My condition is worsening again.
Born feral cats are survival
I need to consume
specialists.
some powerful
On
magic that
God.
may become volatile.
Okay. This fucking thing that I wanted to be good. The blast pendant, I wanted to be good so bad. I'm like, there's gotta be a way to build around it to make fucking useless.
No, there's really not.
Even if you make your whole thing into
Thank you.
collecting those charges, 1 damage per charge is crazy work.
Insane. You're better off just letting the charges build up and using them for the additional damage for other attacks.
Yeah. Hey! Hi, Vesper.
Experience.
Hey, Vesper.
Each time anew. Like
Heyo.
lost soul is
Hmm,
spelunking through the
subtle.
darkness.
Subtle.
A dread altar of the heart. Somehow the
Real
second
quick,
artifact hasn't had the effect
Ma,
of the first.
I love your new PFP.
Somewhat relieved the
Thank you.
discomfort, but I fear my
It's been a
hunger has
while
acquired
since I've changed it. I like it. I like it a lot. And anyone who sees the new profile picture and they're like, whoa, I've never seen a hint of that before, that's crazy. Where did you get that? We have a new official reference for, I almost did
I can't-
exclamation mark reference in the Discord.
I can't wait to see the first model based off the new ref.
It's gonna be
So
gonna be
excited.
sick.
So excited.
Gotta go, cinnamon buns ready? My
I've killed one.
buns are ready. Never mind. Enjoy your cinnamon buns, Carney Girl.
Later, Carney. Buns sound really good right now.
Well.
Bread.
Oh.
Bread.
isn't having
Well.
No.
the storm that quells a forest fire.
They say it can't be done, but I think they just haven't tried hard enough yet.
Sizzle the fire remains undefeated.
What do you mean by
What's
that?
going on, but nothing good.
Nothing?
Please, I need to think.
Nothing?
Anyway,
Retrace my steps to a glade of
I was captured by mind flayers before. I'm lucky to be alive.
Thank you for the artifact. A great deal of trouble it was too. A great deal of trouble indeed.
I really like Gale's reaction. I know he's constantly just munching our stuff, but his reaction to the second one not working well is like
Really good.
he's really freaking out, and he's like, this was a huge cost, even though like mechanically it was not, but like vibe wise, story wise, it's like this was a huge cost and it didn't help. This is a huge fucking problem.
Yeah, of course, like imagining it narratively from his perspective, the fact that a magical item, an item imbued with magical properties, did not, and he consumed the entirety of the magic that is imbued in that item to quell his illness. An action that has worked ever since he got the illness, and it didn't quite work as well. I would freak out too. Like
Yeah.
I would initially go into an anxiety mode.
It would be fair for his character to only be worried about the actual big explosion part that we don't know yet as characters, but like I think it's a cool touch that he's also really worried about like the resources that he is taking and the resources it would need to actually help.
Yeah. Just take a peek at my eyeball. What do you see? What do you see, Volo?
If I just
Let's watch you writhe on a table for a sec for no personal reasons.
That will be. We'll have to do the rest, and
Oh,
then I'll
yeah,
be able.
yeah,
That's
yeah.
why. That's why I wanted to talk to him before we went straight into a long rest, so we could get this all done in one go. You're not doing anything with Bard, right?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Did it not give it to me, or did it send it to you?
Yeah, it did give it to me, but do you want it?
Weird. No. I wasn't doing anything with it. That's why I was asking.
Right.
I couldn't remember because I was gonna ask and just go ahead and give it to you if you were. I couldn't remember if you were doing Bard stuff this run.
No. This character doesn't fit it.
Just a heads up on my end, we have an ad in about 4.5 minutes. Perfect. So we should be good to take the big eep.
Huge eep.
Huge eep. Uh-oh.
Oh. Bad things.
Uh-oh.
The air is heavy. Moisture drips down your
Big
forehead.
stretch.
Pain
I need that.
shoots through your fingers.
I am speaking of big eeps, I am so tired, but
Yeah.
we're gonna make it.
Your finger traces the arc of your lips.
I was so mad. I was so mad at myself.
Because
Because I had no one else to be mad at but myself. It's my fault. Because normally it's like, okay, I get off at 2 a.m., go to bed, get to sleep around 2:30, and wake up at 10, and we'll have plenty of sleep and rest like I normally do for these. And then we remembered what happened, and then we started working on other things, and then it was magically 4 a.m.
When I saw what time you had texted me, I was like, no.
Yeah.
I see it in you. I feel it in me. We are lost. I will be quick with my blade. First you,
Girl.
then the others,
Hey.
then myself.
Your minds intertwine.
I think about this interaction
You sense
as
the
like
touch of
it's happening with you and her, but my character's over there, and I'm if I was at the table, I would be thinking I'm playing asleep right now. But if this NPC tries to kill me in my sleep, it is on like Donkey Kong.
there's no talking out of this one.
No. The DM will just simply have to make new NPC.
Yeah.
How you getting out of this one?
I mean, I definitely want to talk my way out of it, but I'm just trying to figure out what's most in line with my character and easiest.
Emery. Oh no. Oh no. Have we ever told you about that?
No, I don't think so.
So Emmy was the DM for a homebrew campaign. It was the first D&D campaign that I was ever in, first D&D experience I ever had. My character, Jonah, pissed someone off on their way out, on the party's way out of a town.
Excellent.
It happened. Everything good. A few weeks IRL late, it was like several sessions later, we get to a new town. Emmy looks at me and says, "Hey, Jonah, roll a luck die for me." I was like, "Luck die?" And Emmy goes, "Yeah, just a straight D20 roll and let me know what it is." Rolled it. Don't remember what the number was, but let her know. Emmy looks at something behind the DM wall and goes, "Okay."
Yep. Yep.
Now, about 2 IRL months later, Jonah didn't sleep with the party a lot. Jonah had a thing set up where he could stay at other like private, more like selective place because he had a guild background.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonah woke up to 2 assassins standing over him and getting stabbed with a poison knife. The luck die that I rolled as a player at the table 2-ish months before that was related to, if I understood it right, was related to if those assassins were on my trail or not.
Ah.
And they were.
Brutal.
And they found me.
Damn.
Yeah.
I pissed someone off going out of town. Like, not like I kind of insulted your mother. Like, I hired 2 assassins against you fucking pissed off. Like,
the guy that was pissed off was very much like the wealthiest man in a region. And we were doing a job that it was like kind of for them, but not for them. Like, we did the job for them, but we had other reasons to do it. And we needed to tell the guy a fib, or decided it would be better to tell the guy a fib about the job. So Jonah went to go tell the guy a fib, and it wasn't very believable. Sometimes I'm shit at rolls. That's D&D, baby.
And that be happening.
And got in a situation where it was definitely getting called out for lying. And to get out of that situation, basically took the wealthy man hostage for about 15 minutes to get out of the door and run away.
That's more than upset him, man.
Basically jumped him before his goons could like get to me, and had him in a headlock until I could back out of like a window or a door. I don't remember which. This was years ago now. And like get away. It was so
fucking hysterical.
Really, honestly, a really good way to get out without, because it would have been like a 1 versus many situation if I had stayed there.
Right.
And but it's like, all right, well, your guards are here, but you're an arm's length of me. Yoink.
Right.
And he did not like that.
No. I pissed off a guy leaving town. Oh, like, what'd you do? Did you, like, insult him? It was like, assault, battery, and minor kidnapping. Oh!
Yeah, like Amy said, short sword to the throat for a moment, then the comedy of the party absolutely rushing out of town. Yeah, I got away, went back to where the party was staying at. We're like, we gotta go.
Right.
We
cannot be here.
No, do not seek the treasure. We got a blast.
End us all.
This is not good. This is not cash money right now.
We do not fuck with this.
Mm-mm. No. Man, I made some adjustments to my mic levels for the singing thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I am hard pressed, and I'm sure it's not doing it on their end, but every once in a while I look, it's just ever so slightly peaking, and I adjust it slightly down, and then it looks like it's way too low.
Oh, strange.
I don't know. Nobody said anything.
Right?
I know your voice.
Yes,
I've heard it before.
I said the same thing.
I say
Oh my god, twinning!
Twinsies? I like the whole face they do.
Right?
Like the realization.
Oh my god, she's gonna Spider-Man kiss me. Oh, no. Never mind. Shit.
Damn. Damn it.
Damn it.
You will not become a mind flayer. Not while I'm around. I'll protect you.
Yeah, I'll take your hand. I don't know any better right now.
Right? I know nothing about this person still. I still have not gotten far enough.
All I know is what the pants she's wearing does to her. In the
Term.
I'll say it.
Nurture it.
I won't shy away from it.
And you know what?
She does things to me.
She...
You must
Real.
learn to wield it.
I must learn to wield it? No, I don't trust it. I'm a raging barbarian warrior for Saloon. I don't trust anything, any power that I can't like tangibly hold, and that's my sword.
But I can hold it. It's just a little grub. I've eaten a grub before. I've eaten a shrimp. What's this but big shrimp?
You can change that.
What?
Shrimpin'?
But only if you
Big
Oh, you like big
shrimpin'.
shrimps? Noted.
Well, I hate the Dream Warrior? Helta, how are you dressing up your Dream Warrior that you're not ferociously into them? That's your hand. No, I fear for this character, this would work on me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yep.
You'll feel better. I promise.
Truing.
But I am traveling with Lae'zel,
Lae'zel Bazel.
and Lae'zel would absolutely. Oh, Shadowheart's out of bed. Was that the same on
Oh.
your screen?
No.
She was like halfway into the fire, like glitched out of her fucking. It's like, damn,
Hey,
you're rolling
when the
around.
When the game first came out, my first interaction with a full party doing a long rest, Astarion was T-posting with like his from the waist down was clipped under the ground.
Amazing.
All right, Volo.
Oh, that's right. I forgot a thing that I meant to keep changing, but I kept forgetting to.
Who's ready to see someone wriggling in pain?
Ooh, wait.
Health.
Has your
There we are.
research turned up anything?
I picked the wrong voice when I made this character, so I had to go switch it finally. Let's watch our good friend writhe on the table.
My research turned up a rather brilliant technique that seems
Brilliant, you say.
actionable.
Brilliant.
It's not too deep, just behind the orbital socket. I could attempt an extraction. I've a needle in my tunic after all.
Just fishing around in there.
The thing rusty?
Maybe it's just copper.
It's fantasy. There's no tetanus.
Yeah. Me when I die of fantasy tetanus. I fucking...
Yeah.
This is one of my
do
favorite
it.
scenes.
Holds one of your
Yeah.
eyes open. Begins to
Emmy, I had this surgery done IRL. Oh my god.
You got an ice pick
No,
lobotomy? Yeah.
What you had done IRL, honestly, when you described it step by step, sounds worse, not gonna lie.
Ooh. Ooh.
Yeah.
I a little bit can't look at this scene because I have my thing with eyes.
Emmy's basically had to have a fight with a diamond buff grinder on his eyeball.
Ugh, awful.
Yeah. Endure the.
needle finds
Yep.
the gap between eyeball and
Blah.
socket. Volo frowns and begins to
Oh, the squishing. Blech.
Yeah.
It gets me every time.
I love how many opportunities the game gives you to tell him to fuck off. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Oh.
through your body as the needle snags on your optic nerve.
Blah.
I have it.
The needle seesaws back and forth, plucking the nerve like a harp string.
Oh, bother. There's some obstacle.
Yeah, it's my eye, Volo. It's my eye.
It's my favorite line. That obstacle is my eye. Stop at once. But no,
Volo
you're in it to win it.
carefully withdraws the needle from your eye. Then, reaching into his bag, he produces an
Fuck.
ice pick.
Yeah, they really. This is one of the few things they give you so many opportunities to back out of.
Slowly brings
Mhm.
the ice pick closer to your eye.
Now, move.
My favorite dialogue options coming up. My favorite in the game.
Cold metal presses
Oh, yeah.
against the skin beneath your brow. And then tap, tap, stab.
Do you feel that? Ha! I think we have the blighter on the run.
I go.
Yep.
A little further.
Volo tears the pick from your brain with a violent jerk. Your eye plops down into the mud.
Ah.
Drat.
He pauses, down
Drat.
your eye and
That's what you say when you
recoils
get,
lightly as
like,
it sinks into
gouge
the
someone's
mud.
eye out.
All right. Volo really is something else.
There appears to be an amount
Damn.
of cosmetic damage.
Huh. Huh. I can't seem to see through one of my eyes, Volo.
My, I can't help but feel partly responsible.
Only partly.
Partly.
Perhaps there is
Only
something
partly.
more
I
can
love
do.
Volo.
He's great.
Take this.
Chunky.
Far superior relic to that old
Thump that right in there.
to
Yeah.
Try it on for size.
And
Oh, Jesus.
nice to meet you. I'm sure you'll sort out your little brain problem one way or another. Far
Oh,
more
fiddlesticks.
than you've ever heard. Terribly sorry, my friend.
Whoopsie doodle.
Ta.
and then he's off. He's out of here.
We love him. We love him to death. All right, I'm gonna talk to Lae'zel about the dream.
Okay.
If I can convince
Yeah.
her to do it, I'm gonna do it. If I can't, maybe I'll hold off for a second.
Oh, you're gonna try and get her to.
As we all did, I suspect.
We're gonna
Okay.
let the dice decide.
Came to me and promised to
Okay,
protect
more
me
power to you.
while
I'm gonna go
claiming
talk to my
that the
girlfriend.
parasite could empower me. The parasite has taken root, it would seem. Every word, every promise, it is gate deception.
It did the thing where I didn't have any dialogue options. I just had continue.
I'd sooner trust a night hag than a strange figure-bearing dream.
What'd you say? Sorry.
Sometimes the dialogue options like mess up, and you just get the option to continue.
Oh yeah,
when
yeah.
when I know for a fact there were other options there, because I've played this game too much.
Oh no, yeah, she's immediately like, "Fuck that noise." Okay, I'll wait too.
When I say I played this game too much, looking at Steam, especially played this part of the game too much. I have 481 hours in this game, and I only have one save file that's made it to Act 3.
I got you beat.
And I only have 3 save files that have made it to Act 2.
Yeah, I have 655 hours. I've never seen Act 3. I've played the beginning of this game way too many fucking times. Though I'm sure 100 of those hours are just in character creation. I'm actually extremely sure about that.
Yeah. Oh, how long did it take you to make your very first character when you bought the game?
I don't know. I couldn't tell you.
It took me 4.5 hours to make my first character.
Jesus.
And then when I tell you the sigh I audibly made when I clicked ready and then it went, you need a guardian, choose one, and I had to do that shit over again.
That's so funny.
Sounds like it. What did you make of it? Seems risky, if you ask me. Couldn't help getting stuck with the tadpole, but taking favors from it? Spooky.
Sorry, I couldn't remember what option I wanted to pick. Oh, I feel like I need to sneeze, but I can't.
The year. 10
I'm gonna
was a kid
skip
looking for
through
his former days
Karlak's
and make some cash
dialogue a
and fell into
bit.
the wrong crowd.
Yeah.
Worked for a guy I respected a lot.
Just because I'm not sure what direction I want to go with this character.
Mutual. Through the jigs and the reels, he made a deal with Zariel behind my back. She put
Oh,
this
let the matter.
thing in my chest
Game?
and set me to work. Well, to war. I learned quick how to stay alive.
What drew you to Shar worship?
And the engine served me when it came to killing devils. 10 years of that.
The Guardian jump scare was the exact moment I realized Larian is the perfect company to make a D&D game. Oh, yeah. They have, like, Larian is the best RPG maker in the world, in my opinion. Look at Divinity.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all you need to know.
I still gotta
In
play
terms
Divinity.
of making an RPG, like, I think the best company.
I saw a job, a good job, with people I liked, doing work I was good at. Sometimes I'm jealous of that girl. Ugh, to feel so invincible again.
I'll teach you how to swim. Anyway.
We were both part of Zariel's inner
Yay, let's get that
circle.
approval rating up.
Her
I need
by
it.
choice, me by force. In the grand scheme of things, I'm inconsequential to Zariel. Sure.
I'm not going to pressure you because I am a
Her strongest
Saloonite.
fighter. But
I
she
need you to
favored
like
a
me.
child captive.
No enemies to lovers?
Mizora envied the attention
No, I don't
of
ever
Zariel.
frenemies her.
I'm sure when Zariel gave her the order to
Normally
hunt
I'm
her
not-
down,
Like, I
Mizora was
don't play very many
delighted.
religious characters in general.
Right.
So it's not brought up, but since one of the mods we chose gives you a deity, so you have some religious options, I'm just like tiptoeing around it a little bit.
Right.
No kidding. The fighting, the chaos, the betrayal. It had the makings of a
Excellent
good
bot.
stage show, but
Great
I
job,
only
Sarah.
want
Excellent
to
bot.
be one of
Have you
the
noticed an
few.
uptick
Yes.
in that recently?
Like a few
I
a
know,
stream.
I can't remember if it was no, it was not
Devils
your last stream. It was not the anniversary stream, but the stream before that, you
Mhm.
had like 4 or 5 in one stream.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Maybe they ran a discount recently.
I don't know. There's no telling. It's just like scam calls and scam texts. There's lulls and highs and lows.
Right.
I expect I am your first.
Huh.
Hmm.
I suppose I am as alien to you as you are to me. I know of your kind, but I do not often.
The hat is sending me because her ears poke through it.
Fleshy nose
It's-
of yours looks like a mistake.
Like I just imagine it's like you give her the hat, she's like, I'm gonna wear this. Then she tries to put it on, doesn't work, and then she just pulls out a knife and cuts little slits on each side of her ears.
I like the idea because I've never romanced her long enough or played the game long enough, truthfully, to like get the other side of her. But I feel like it's fun to have a little costume piece that's like a small flare of, okay, maybe there's some things that are enjoyable about this
Yeah.
fucking trash pile.
Can you keep everyone occupied for a minute while I run to the restroom?
Of course, this is a perfect time for it. I am obsessed with running through all this dialogue for some reason.
Perfect. Be right back. Chat, be good. Or don't. I'm not a cop.
Cowgirl Bazel is so cute. I love how her hair sits in it. Right? It's really cute. I like it. It's just nice in general to find headwear that doesn't look fucking stupid on them. Is that mean? The helmets in this game, the helmets in most games leave a lot to be desired, but I will say the one that you can make in the Mithril Forge is pretty fucking sick. But besides that, really nothing. Should I insult her? No. We're playing a no-nonsense ex-soldier, right? We're just gonna be quiet.
Yes, best to keep quiet, lest any drivel leak from your lips. No matter. I do not intend to stay long in
Maybe I
this
don't
place.
fuck with Lae'zel. I think my character is not necessarily a pushover. Like, verbally a pushover, but not emotionally. Like, oh, you're gonna say mean things? Why would I fight you on that? I'll just fuck off. You know? I feel like that's the kind of person I'm building. I frequently just hide the helmets because I like to see their faces. Yeah. The Mithril one has the, like, half-face window, so I keep it just because it's cool. Because it's really fucking cool. But yeah, basically any other helmet I hide. Though I will say, this hat is cute on her. I do miss her OG hairstyle. Oh, no, this is the perfect time to say this. You were just fucking mean to me. Hey, you said I've earned your respect. What the fuck, man?
If you must know, Vlaakith requires everything of her children. I can't count how many bruises I've inflicted. Can't measure how much blood I've drawn in the undying queen's name. I know only blood red and death black. My mind is silver, and my body steel. I am what I must be. Say what I must be.
I return.
To survive every beast I face and every wound.
I'm falling for Bazel.
Falling for?
I'm falling for
Don't
it.
fall too hard.
I wish there was more to that conversation. What the fuck? I feel like there's a lot. Never mind. Okay, ready to go.
Cool. We need to clear out the rest of the goblin camp. Oh, wait. Going the wrong way.
At least her hair's still wavy when you keep the hat on her.
Yeah.
There are some games where, like, you put on a hat and instantly they have, like, default fucking white girl after a salon, like, permed or not permed, fucking, like, the heat thing.
Yeah. I was
God.
trying to figure out what that status effect was on your character, but I forgot you, like, did a little...
Oh, I got kinkily
BDSM.
beat. Yeah.
Yeah. You got kinked.
I got kinky with our main man. What's his fuck?
Yeah.
And honestly, I'm kind of debating changing my character to be
Really?
able to use the knife that I grabbed off his table because it's fun.
Okay. We still have the the interior door guards.
Or no, you gave it. Never mind. It works on Shadowheart.
Did I give it to her?
Mhm.
I'm gonna be honest. She probably won't really use it.
I mean, the ability's okay, but like just every attack giving you a plus 1d4 to all your attack rolls is...
Yeah.
It's just better version of the Watcher Spear.
On the move.
Kind of forgot about these guys, not gonna lie. Let's
There we
go. Wow, 13 fucking damage.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh.
The cleric actually hitting her fucking shots. Who would have thought? Not me.
Oh. Oh, cool.
Hi. We're gonna not enjoy you doing that.
Who the fuck? So I like that some of them aren't procced when one of them's procced. Like, they really should all be a together combat, but sometimes they're just like, something's going on down there. It's none of my business.
Ooh.
I wonder if this is worth
Perfect.
the cost.
And we end my turn.
Perfect. Oh, she's coming
Drew,
after you.
enjoy your lurk. BRB, you gotta shower and get some food. Enjoy your food, enjoy your bath.
We love when
Jesus.
God, the crit happy.
Don't like that. Radiant orb. Effect that. Okay. I forgot. I was having to remember how radiant orb worked.
Right. Of course. Shut up.
Push. Should.
Oh.
Thank you. I do not like. Oh, not enough movement? What about you? No? No? Okay.
Oh, I didn't take the thing. Damn. I didn't take the magic missile arrow. Lissai. Oh, that's a long rest repair. Bah. Bah.
Leave me alone. Come here, bud.
Wow. Nice. Jesus.
A critical from
point blank.
blank. That's so stupid.
That's 2 nat 20s. They just rolled 2 nat 20s.
DM?
DM?
Bullshit.
What the fuck?
Yeah. Didn't like that.
With haste.
Do I use a thing? Like a spell?
We got a lot to do outside.
Yeah. I just
Oh, yeah,
can't.
I'm not using it. I'm just gonna drink juice once we get done with this, and rock it.
Oh yeah, I have Lazel as well. You got her?
Let's see. No.
Love you, Shadowheart.
Yeah. When it counts, no.
Yippee!
I'm gonna drink some juice that didn't heal shit for me.
Oof.
Shouldn't have wished to live in more interesting times. One day I'll catch a
It's into
break.
camp.
Let's not walk right out the front door. That sounds fucking crazy, actually.
We could, honestly, if you want, a way I do like to handle it is fast traveling to the Blighted Village and fighting from outside inward. The fights are a little less hectic.
Yeah, that would probably be smarter.
But we can do it however. I'm
Let
down
me
for whatever.
go out the side entrance anyway, just because I know there's a chest there that I can grab really
Okay.
quick.
We'll go out that way.
And then... I think, honestly, we're high enough level that we can kind of take them from whatever angle we end up doing.
Take it from any angle.
I'll take you from any angle.
And fall asleep and you'd fall in love.
What the fuck?
Speaking of falling in love, would you be a dearie because you love me so much?
And I do.
And any like a one potion,
Oh, yeah.
one healing pot.
How many do I have?
What's up, Eagle? What do you know good?
Yeah.
Get the camera. She's taking them from every angle. Okay. No. Okay. Now that I watched it happen this time, they're doing really good numbers. I just have big number.
You have big number. Barbarian.
Yeah.
Barbarian with the plus con. I have a
Barbarian.
shield. You might like it better than the Woodwode shield. Up to you.
Okay. Yeah. Just send it to her and I'll see.
Mhm.
Working. Working on Saturdays. Bleh.
Boo.
Be wary. This place is tracked.
+2 on once for short rest. Yeah, that actually, for how much I use a shield, that's really good.
Oh my god.
So
I didn't disconnect my main character, and she wandered straight into every fucking mine. Like a fucking idiot.
I think they dissipate after a minute.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Stupid.
I wonder. That pile of stuff looks like a trap.
That looks like it was once a trap. If we are clever, we can get rid of some rooftop peeps before we fight anyone
Aggro
downstairs.
Yeah. I like it. That'll be me in 5 hours. Oh yeah, you close tonight.
Oof.
They're practically unconscious.
Stuff.
Good
Ooh.
things.
Fuck yeah.
Good stuffs. Bad
Really
stuffs,
good stuffs.
In between stuffs.
Some great potions. Speaking of huge fight, we can take it without, but we would not be remiss to use one of our crazy long rest potions.
We have a long rest potion.
We have a few. We have Elixir of Colossus. We have Hill Giant Strength, Bark Skin.
Yeah, this fight can drag pretty good.
I guess we don't have a shit ton. Ooh,
If
anyone
we-
want
I mean,
a +5 to initiative?
Yes.
You
Send
want
it to
that?
me.
There,
Yeah.
drink that.
Where did it go?
Elixir of Vigilance.
Ah.
Honestly, I'm gonna give you the Hill Giant Strength thing too. Not for today, but just like I think it's better in your hands. And honestly, that's probably good. Oh, now I
Yeah.
have heavy armor. Oh, this would probably be... Damn, all these potions would be better in your hands, actually. Here, have this as well. Makes your base AC 16.
I know about what fight I'm gonna save that for.
Ooh.
And the bark skin too.
Oh,
That's a
the-
surprise tool we'll use for later.
Our witchy friend.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Let's try... these goblins over here would probably be easier to try and assassinate in their sleep.
Yeah.
How much damage are we all pulling out without raging? You are definitely our biggest.
Yeah. Let me scooch over here.
Do you want to get the 20 and I'll get the 11?
Yeah, sure. I need to figure out. Okay, I had to stand in a particular place because if I swing a certain way, I'll make that alcohol ignite.
Ah,
All right.
very concerning.
On you.
Okay, 3, 2, 1, shoot. Fucking hell yeah.
What path lies before me?
Alright. This one
I don't.
would be harder.
Yeah, I say we each pick one of the 35 ones
Just try and get him low.
and just try and get them low.
Okay.
I'm gonna, in fact, let me.
We
let
could
me
get the
set
same
up-
one
I'll get
as
set up
well.
on- What's that?
Do you want to try and get the same one instead?
Do you want to knock out an entire one, or do you want to get two of them decently knocked out?
I think knocking down an entire one would be better.
Okay. Do you want the middle one or the one closest to me?
Closest to you.
Closest to me. Okay. Are you ready?
Ready? Three, two, one, go. Oh shit.
Yeah, but they're at 3. And okay.
I was just worried. I thought maybe it wouldn't aggro the whole camp. Maybe I was a little too close to the ledge.
Nah, it's fine. I think once they get started, they wake up the Pookies or Baldur's gating.
That
What's
somehow
up, Hoya?
counted for both my attacks. Hi, Hoya!
First, I'm gonna get Angie.
Angie.
And because Angie Barbarian can handle this situation right here really well, actually.
Right.
Where do I go from here?
Oh yeah, I guess I won't use my fucking thing. That's fucked up that it took both my arrow shots. Just, I don't know why it did. Something must have glitched.
It can just be weird.
Right. I like how long the pathfinding takes when everyone's really far away. Oh.
What a
What?
bro, what a throw. There's no way. No, that's a DM being a fucking DM right there. I know exactly what that is.
That's so
Okay.
funny.
You do that. You cease to exist.
Mm,
Almost.
damn. You should switch her off Death Domain. Maybe.
I should.
You use Radiant a lot more.
Hey, Max.
Max! Hi!
Amy, can you get a shout out from Max, please? Max is a wonderful being and everyone's favorite one-eyed alien from outer space.
It's true. And not just because they're the only one I know.
Oh, even the fucking weapon. We're doing good. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
You missed me singing this morning. I sang 2 songs instead of 1.
And it was actually fucking beautiful. Damn. So close.
This would fucking Stimp doesn't want to go down. Yeah, you guys missed it. I sang this morning. I sang songs. I went live 30 minutes early. Nar. Yeah.
Nor.
I may be bullied into doing it again sometime, but
Yeah.
it's no longer going to be a follow goal. I do not want that
Fair.
expectation.
Very fair. And Max, it was beautiful. It was crazy.
Y'all got more hey, sometimes you just got to do it. With as much guff as I give myself about my voice, apparently other people like it, so fuck it.
I feel so similar.
Yeah.
And Hoya, I have heard you sing.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And Max too.
No. The VOD gets deleted after this, so you can back this. Actually, no. I have that track. I have it set up to where, in case I forgot to do the VOD, that track, or in case I forgot to delete the VOD, that track won't. The YouTube won't show up on it, so it's just gonna be me singing with no music. I don't know how I feel about that. I gotta remember to delete that VOD.
Again.
God. Also, something's fucked up.
Pre-recorded so different. Nah, you still sing good. Do not sell yourself short, Pookie. I'm gonna do one of these, and I'm gonna do one of those. So close, so fucking close.
I should have used one of my magic arrows. I didn't.
It's a cap with isolated vocals. Watch it. This morning was oh my god, they keep throwing.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. Okay. You.
Sick.
Who? Where are you?
I'm hiding. Don't worry about me.
Okay. Pays bonus to attack rolls and saving. Nah, I'm gonna hold it. Yeah, if you want this knife back to do something with, go for it. Because I'm not finding myself in situations where I want to use it.
That's fair. It doesn't happen often that Shadowheart's in a situation where she's stabbing people anyway.
Yeah. Where are you? And I'm so sorry. You want to carbon date a crowd that you're in or find your people? Just, where are you? Or, hey there. That one will really, you'll really find some people with that one.
God, do I want to just pull the same trick again? Kinda.
Can't do it.
Magic Missile's just the best cleanup tool in the world.
Yeah, it really is. It's a good mop up.
I like that I have the suspicious potion in my inventory, and someday I will drink it. I will forget, and it will be bad.
Yeah.
I'll get a little closer.
Oh. They're trying.
They're confused, but they got spirit.
Yeah. They'll figure it out. Figure it out, bud. If you throw one more health pot, I'm gonna shit.
Wow, I have my kink bonus. My kink bonus is active.
Oh. I was confused for half a second.
What does Hex
oh,
do?
wow. Look at all these
Checks.
little goblins over here.
Oh, wait. No, actually, that's fine. No, it can hit you. Fuck. Damn.
What? We're just gonna clear house a little bit.
Trying to line up everyone I possibly can.
How kinky? Pretty kinky.
It was a good time. Fuck yeah. That's...
What happened? Last session, she did the thing with the
Leviatar.
yeah.
If you let
Leviatar's
him
love.
torture you enough, you get a permanent buff. And he gets all weird on you. He gets all touchy-feely after. He wants a cuddle.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it.
Which, you know, same, but not for this character.
I think. Let's see if I can do something here.
Yeah, I switched Lae'zel to Dex because there's too many strength builds in the party.
I should be able to fucking.
And I like the magic-y vibe on a Githyanki.
I can literally see the art going over the thing. The path is not interrupted. There it is. Goober. Anyway. Recast. Not enough movement? Okay. You're just
Chilling.
dickhead.
Huge chilling.
Anyway. Yeah, the Arcane Archer.
She's good.
Oh, there's one more. I just now realized there's one more goblin up. Hiding.
What path lies before?
Hiding in the crowd. We're the crowd. It's just two of us.
It's us.
Yeah. It's just us. Yeah, I do too, Emmy. Battle Master's just too good. But you got to mix it up a little bit sometimes.
Twin spell does not twin everything. Is that how it works in the book, or am I being cucked?
I don't remember how it works in the book, but in the game, when the game first came out, it used to, and then they nerfed that shit to the ground.
Yeah, it's fucked up.
They nerfed the meta magic stuff a lot in this game. I've never done Sorcerer at the Table, so I've never bothered looking at the written material for it, so I don't know how much different it is compared to the game. But hey, spooks!
God damn. Do we have any enemies up here even? Yeah, we do. Okay.
One, a singular one with 4 HP left. We're fixing to have to start working our way. Well, we do also have one in this tower over here.
Oh yeah, Piddle, my favorite.
Yeah, who's not even in the engagement. He's just
He's chilling.
he's chilling. He's reading.
More magic missiles.
Yeah, it's funny because they're all trying to get us from over here, and I'm probably about to, instead of doing the big run, jump down on this side. Oh, there's one more goblin. No, they're all starting to make.
Yeah.
They're making their way up here.
Making my way.
Making my way downtown. Damn you. Damn you.
Sup, spooks?
More heal.
I will
All the
shield.
healing. 2014 Twin Spell only works on spells that target one enemy, so no AoEs. The 2024 Twin Spell only works in spells that target one and can be upcast to target additional, making it basically unusable.
Wow.
So they really did kind of...
They fucked us.
Yeah.
Can I hit you? Okay. Silly time.
That's all right. That's two.
Bye, Piddle.
I don't have enough. I don't have enough movement to get the third. Damn you. Unless. Okay, that works. Yeah, that really works. Perfect.
I like that the Gurgan just kind of chills.
At some point, we're gonna have to deal with it.
Yeah, but once he's all on his own, it's pretty easy. Okay, we will do this shit.
Ooh, I know what I'm doing for my turn.
Ah,
Gives
thanks.
you some heals and temporary hit points.
Let's go.
And I think... No, we've ridden the crowd out. I'm not going to do Spirit Guardian.
Fight me, you bastard. I love Tempestuous Flight. That shit's so fun.
Yeah.
Even though they kind of made Flight a little weaker. Oh, you're not even gonna come over here. You want the crowd. You want the smoke. Damn.
Oh.
Well, that's fair.
Apologize for your outburst.
Fuck you.
Oh, you're down there.
Yeah. I wanted the smoke. We're about to have fun.
Yeah.
Can I hit them both yet? No? Okay. How much is this? And this is a bonus action? Deal. Are we gonna long rest
What?
after this? I'm kind of using up everything.
We'll probably have to.
Yeah. Oh, wait. Fancy shit. Then I'm just gonna sanctuary and chill. Ooh. Hold person's such a brutal fucking spell.
Yeah.
Oops. The camera moved.
Try something else. That won't work.
No, fuck you. There. We'll just keep doing returning pike since there's no way for me to get down there quickly that doesn't involve potentially dying.
Real and valid. Get fucked. And we're just gonna take care of this shit.
Perfect. Loot.
Loot crazy! Loot-tacular!
Ooh. Hey, what kind of gloves do you have on your arcane archer?
Currently gloves of thievery. Gloves of hail of thorns.
Our wonderful trader here, because it's random what they dropped the gloves of archery.
Ooh, I will take those if you are not using them.
They're in her inventory.
Sick. Yeah, that's probably way better. 2 extra damage.
By the way, you are almost encumbered.
Yeah, that'll happen. I'll send... Oh, I accidentally picked up a bunch of food, so I'll just send that to camp. There.
I have so many to loot up here.
Right.
So much stuff to send to camp.
Okay, I guess I am evil enough to eat dwarf this campaign.
Oh,
We'll just pretend I don't know. In canon.
Yeah.
Just...
Yeah, you don't know. Here's 300 gold, since you're the one that does all the talking.
Ooh. Yippee. It's your mom's birthday, Spooks? That's sweet. That's sweet that you're making a fancy dinner.
W.
Yeah. What you making?
There we go. Give me all your things for us to sell. Oh, how gassed are you? Because we still have some more people to clear out.
I can do the rest of the goblins for sure.
Okay. It's a lot of goblins you can do.
How many
Goblin
more?
meat.
Shit. Fucking die.
You love me and you know it.
Metal.
I'm sending all my special arrows I pick up to Lae'zel, because funny.
Valid. I love how fucking massive thieves' tools are, so you don't accidentally miss them. There.
Yeah. Send a camp. Alright.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Everyone's been looted here. So we can now go down. Oh wait, no. These 3. The 3 that we killed while they were, or the 2 we killed while they were sleeping.
That's right. I think I might have gotten everybody down here. There wasn't a lot down here, not gonna lie.
So many things. Alright. Everything up here has been acquired. I am now scaling down. I am coming. I am also on my way.
You're coming?
And you're going? I like this little game that we play. Alright.
Wait, important side question.
Okay.
Which camp clothes look better? These ones or these ones?
Do the other ones again.
I think,
Those fit the character.
yeah, I think so too.
I think the others look better. That fits the vibe that you've been given.
Okay. Glad we're on the same flavor train.
Yeah.
I know there's something I could do with that, but I just can't find it.
Oh wait, Crusher's taking a piss.
Oh yeah, he's out on the bridge since you didn't bite his toe off. Don't push him.
No,
We won't get his toe
I'm not.
ring.
I'm not.
I always do that. And I forget, and I'm like, tee-hee, straight off the cliff. You think it's called sand? It's in between the sea and the... What? Do you want to attack him? Yeah.
There you go.
Yippee!
Get you a toe ring.
And it's a really good toe ring. Do you want it though? Honestly, it might be best on you.
Sure, send it to me. I don't have anything on my dogs yet.
Given the given the barbarian movement, that's the way to do it. Oh, I stole your bomb.
Yeah.
There it is.
I still have Malik's magic ring.
And that's important.
And heavy quotes. And heavy quotes. There we go. Just heads up on my side, we've got an ad in about 5. Say the sand thing one more time, I dare you.
The sand thing. You're gonna have to be more specific. I don't really know. Is it the I hate sand, it's coarse, rough, and irritating, and it gets everywhere? That sounds like a sand thing. Well, Hmm.
What it... Hold on. Hold up.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
What did we learn?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Damn.
What else minds their business? I'll be
You stop talking when you're told. You're a good girl.
Mm-hmm.
Nerd. Close can I get before they move? How close can I get before they move? I get right up on you. Hey, nerd.
My patience wanes.
Mm-hmm.
W. I'm actively on fire. Pog.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I understand. I'm picking up what you're putting down.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Fuck you, me. Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. Let me send this stuff to camp real quick, and then we'll figure it out. Oh god, computer. Oh god, computer. Please stop. I don't know why my computer has just suddenly decided to not like this game. Check Discord. Huh. Okay. Yeah. All right. I see your DM. You okay over there? It's almost like you can't talk. It's almost like somebody told you to stop talking, and you listened.
There's a VO redeem. Just even attempting to fathom a world where your boy doesn't meet all the amazing people makes me shudder. Congrats on 1 year, Bleak Cheeks? Bleak Cheeks? What the fuck does that even mean? Now make it 2 or I'm gonna throw a brick into traffic. Do it anyway. Fuck around. Find out. Stop that. Stop. If you activated the other fight by shoving me... Oh, you fucking did. You... you fucking asshole.
Later.
I hate it here.
I'm gonna go get in the middle of that.
Uh-huh.
Actually, Shadowheart's gonna give me a healing smooch, and then I'm gonna go get in that. I hate that her giving me that heal made her. Oh wait, hey, bud.
Hey.
There we go.
Damn.
Roar.
Emmy only half robbed you. But in Emmy's defense, you could have looked before you leapt. You Love you, Spooks.
Okay.
Thank you for the sweet words.
And for my next trick.
Oh shit.
Oh shit. Oh shit.
Fucking hell.
She's gonna lose it immediately. Nope.
Oh, that would have been funny.
She's gonna lose it on this one. Calling it
Who
now.
are you alarming, sir?
Yeah, they don't. Well, they don't know.
It's true.
What? Oh, come on.
You hate to see it.
Oh, one saved hold.
Best be on my way.
I still have some sorcery. I still have a sorcery point left. Oh, but no first level. Never mind.
Whoops. Anyway.
Very carefully aimed to avoid
What do you think
you.
about switching up to? You were talking about maybe changing your character up.
I was debating switching back to the warlock shit.
Yeah.
I like-
Warlock's very strong.
I like the bomber build a lot. Also, I was on our bit of a hiatus from Baldur's Gating. I was looking up some combats that we have yet to hit. Haha, stole your kill. I'm super scared of the Gith Yankee.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Not enough movement.
it's fucked up.
It's right there. It's right there.
Sorlock is also an
Fuck
option. This
Fuck
is
ass
true.
Game. All right.
Again.
Okay. Okay. Nope.
Damn.
Don't you do it.
Oh no.
Oh, you're calling your. Oh no, you're calling your friend.
God,
Oh,
what are we gonna
no.
do? Yeah.
When will they get here?
Oh, he's cheering so happily. Poor guy.
Anyway. She.
You hate to see it. Suggestion for the gift fight that always worked for me. I don't want to cheese it too hard, but I will take advice. But yeah, there are certain fights in our honor mode run that I'm genuinely afraid of.
Yeah. I think we'll be fine. We have proven that we can handle a lot already.
I don't know that anything we have handled can compare to what we must handle in the future.
I'll tell you. The hag will tell me a lot about what's going to happen from here out.
This is fair. The hag's gonna be crazy easy though with 2 attacks. I guarantee it.
Yeah. Now we can either long rest now, or we can do the tiefling camp party.
Oh, that's a good point. Let's.
So, but if we're gonna do that, we need to go to the Emerald Grove.
Yeah, let me go to camp. Switch out Lae'zel for Karlach. I think we haven't done that thing yet. And then go to the camp. And I'm gonna talk to the blacksmith really quick.
Soldier.
Yeah. I'm gonna go ahead and
Kill them
I'm not
before
gonna go in the camp,
they kill you.
but I'm gonna be at the Emerald Grove Environs fast travel point,
You know, I'm
waiting
not
on you.
but
Okay.
it's a little full.
I'm just... Guys, what if we killed Emmy?
No,
I know
it's
we're
not.
fond of him. But...
Kill them before they kill you. Hey, fair and based. That is a good way to deal with them, actually.
I hate it here.
That's not really cheesy. It's you using the game's features. I define cheese as going about certain ways that were definitely not intended to handle it.
For sure.
Like, everybody talks about doing a bunch of barrelmancy all through the campaign. No, the only time I'm okay with barrelmancy is when it's obvious they're like laying out the potential for you if you want.
If they're already
Like-
set up, then yeah, of course.
Yeah. Or, like inside the goblin camp when like, oh, hey, I found a broom closet with 23 exploding barrels in it. They wouldn't just leave those there for us
Yeah.
as devs to not be used. What are you doing, Shadowheart? Let me holler at you. Lady of Sorrows, guide us. All right, you are very high loyalty right now if you're talking like that. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I got the good. Okay, I am set up for the party. Your boy's getting this
I
smooch.
see.
Your boy's getting a smooch, chat.
Oh shit, I should check something.
Oh. Yeah, you should. He says as he also goes to check.
Oh. No, it was off. It was off. It's good. Everything's fine.
Okay. Yep. Okay.
Okay.
We'll still, anytime you still have to have that quick transition.
Right.
in
I
case he's-
keep my finger poised over the
Yeah.
show game.
I will never forget that first time we started doing this. And you're
Oh my
like,
God.
We found out that just because you turn that setting off, you have to like restart the game.
Mm-hmm. That was a scare. That was a scare and a half.
That was something. You're gonna do the Karlach thing. If you want to expedite this, I can go ahead and go talk to Halson.
Yeah.
From all of us. It isn't much.
Actually, I'm gonna talk to these
It's not
goobers first.
enough.
I like these guys.
Halsin will likely want to
I
thank
love
you.
Zephlor
He returned just a while ago.
and his crew.
No armies at our heels. Amazing. We can
Uh-huh.
finally leave.
Yeah, Roland.
But perhaps we need not speak of farewells.
You give the air of someone that wants to be the smartest person in the room, but you're a down-to-earth person. You know it. You know it in your heart.
We'll see you there. Almost clicked the let's go there right away option. That would have been not ideal.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. When you see, we're level 5 now. Should see what's in the store.
Ooh, that's also true.
Oh my God! All the stuff we've sold. There's so
Yeah.
much of it.
I'm about to go talk to Damon. I'll check his inventory too. But if you want to send everything you want sold to me, I can make that occur.
Great axe. What does Dragon's Grasp do? I forget. Burned alive deals an additional slashing damage to burning target, and too situational.
I wish I had better.
Oh,
But this is all I have.
I guess we did already do the Karlak thing.
Who did it? Helta, trying to get me wet? It's working. 500 cigarettes. Wow, things are so laggy looking at it through OBS right now with this game up. I don't know what happened to this game.
It's kind of weird.
And I have it set on medium, everything. I want to stick with, like, I really like what we got going on here. But now that we're level 5, I see my favorite armor in this entire game.
Yeah? Which one is it?
The +2 padded armor. It just looks so good. But that's why I take things like Rangers and stuff a lot, because like they can wear it and still be decent.
Is it a light armor or medium?
It's a light armor.
Oh, okay. Yeah. You could give it to Shadowheart, but it would not be ideal.
Yeah. No, it would not be ideal.
Did you send me everything that you wanted sold?
Oh, I haven't sent you anything yet. I'm sorry. I was looking in his store.
No, you're good.
Let me rent you camp real fast and acquire the items. Up. Click the chest, so I don't have to walk all the way over there. Store by type. And we clicky.
Ooh. Some better heavy armor.
I don't know. I'm having fun with this. Constantly just using the Everburn blade feels a little cheeky.
Fair.
So I don't know. I may change this up, but I don't know what direction I want to go if I do change it up. Plus, I think it's fun to change it up throughout the campaign.
Hell yeah.
We're doing things.
I fuck with it. I always fuck with it.
Nope, got that.
Does anybody want Hunter's Mark? It's 65 gold. I'm just gonna buy it. Fuck it.
You just got a bunch of things.
Ooh, nice. Ooh, damn.
Yeah. Oh, chat, do I keep being a barbarian or do I change it up? Thoughts, concerns.
Could be fun. Could be the move.
How much gold do I have in my inventory?
I'm keeping the
43
poop knife. Nothing could make me get rid of the poop knife.
No, never. Ever. Warlock best class? Yeah, I don't know. If I changed, it would honestly just because I would Ranger.
Do you want me to buy the +2 padded armor from him?
Can you snag one of them?
Yeah.
Because if I do this change, it's going to be Ranger. I'm going to need it.
Or is there a better light armor in the other guy's shop that you would prefer I grab, or is it the same?
It does that vendor also have the +2 padded armor, the green armor?
It looks green-ish. I don't want to fuck it up. I'm literally going to take a screenshot really quick and send it to you.
It's padded. I'll just hold on. I'll just open your stream, baby.
Oh, okay, that's fair.
Yeah, give me 2 seconds. I had to close my other Twitch tabs because like game.
Ranger, I barely know
voice.
her. Love it.
Yeah, padded armor +2. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. I'll grab it for you.
Yeah.
Whether you switch or not. Good to have. Okay, that's it. He has a +1 javelin, but like, meh. Well, actually. Yeah.
What? Hold on. I need to look at our tab. What all did we take? Okay, so you got the spell sparkler.
Mm-hmm. Which was the wrong
So-
choice, honestly, but you know,
We can't undo it.
we can't undo it. Okay. Oh yeah, alchemical stuff. I never fuck with alchemy.
And this one. Yeah, I'm gonna change to Ranger. One thing I need from you, if you don't mind, since you have all the gold, before we leave here, come up to the dwarf trader and get Spell Thief. That's really my only best option.
Spell
for a
Thief's
bow
so
right
good.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I think I am done with this man.
And then I think, what is it to change class? 100 gold?
200.
200? I have 43 on me.
Yeah, I'll give you. I got you, BB girl.
Yeah. Thank you, sweetie.
Okay, cool. Decked the fuck out.
And it's funny is, just so I don't fuck this up, I'm literally gonna change the class and go and change the look of my character. Because this is no longer, if I pick Ranger, this is no longer Esker. We're retconning. I did this once during the middle of a campaign.
We love retconning.
I changed characters in the middle of a campaign. I should do Scout once.
Scout?
I honestly, actually, I may do Scout.
Scout's fucking awesome.
Scout was a
rogue subclass.
No, I just chose that for that one. The actual Scout at the table was a wizard with some levels in fighter.
New armor. New armor. Who dis? Oh, and I look fucking goated, actually.
How's the vibe?
The vibe is fucking soldier. Rah.
Raw?
Though I do need... I forget. Do you remember... This would be a crazy pullback. There was a specific die that I used for the previous fit. I don't remember what color it was.
Ooh. Actually, yeah, keep the padded armor, because I may do that later. If you want to give it to me and I'll put it in my chest, that's fine.
Yeah. Black and Azure. That was it. Yeah.
But we're going to do this just so I have it perfect. I gave you 43 gold. When you have a second, throw 200 even at me, so I have exactly enough to do the subclass.
Oh, yeah. I thought I gave you gold.
No, I didn't.
No, I gave you all my gold.
You gave me... Oh, hold on. You gave me everything.
Yeah.
Split. And where are you at? There you are. Oh. Oh, also, I'm not using this. If you want to sell it, it's some good hide armor.
+2 hide. Yeah.
Yeah. And did you send me the padded armor?
No, I did not yet. Hold on.
No. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. No rush.
But this is all I have.
Damon's
Absolutely
cute.
zero.
I like him.
Yeah. Damon. Damn it.
God damn it.
Damn it, Damon, whatever your name is. I don't know. I just work here.
I literally just work here. Okay. And fancy padded armor.
I will
There you go.
require one more thing if you're not using it.
Sure. What?
If you are, the Dex longsword. Are you using it?
I was, but she mostly uses a bow, so I can get that.
Okay, I can give you a +2 longsword as a trade.
That's pretty sick.
I can also
Oh, I forgot. You don't talk to her to access her shit.
Are pikes strength or dex based?
Strength.
Strength? Okay. I also, just because if you're going to be slinging things, how about I also give you the returning pike? Because I don't need it anymore.
Ooh, that would not be bad on Lysel. That would be pretty good,
Yeah,
actually.
I'll send it to your inventory.
Though I think that's still strength, but whatever. Wouldn't be bad on Karlach. I'll give it to her.
Yeah.
Just as a backup for her.
And just so you can do what you want with it, there's a +2 longsword.
Yippee!
And when you have a second, if you will snag Spell Thief for me, I'm gonna run to camp and go ahead and get this class thing sorted out.
I would love to use the Spell Sparkler. It matches my vibe, but the sword looks so much fucking cooler, so it's what I'm doing. Yeah.
I wish I had made this decision last session, so I could like, hey, let's get the lightning bow. But
yeah.
Neither here nor there. The lightning bow is also a little bit of a crutch.
Fair.
But there's only a handful of good bows, and of that handful, and even another handful of those good bows are all, you really only get them in like the last 10 hours of the game.
You are now dex based, so your initiative should be a bit better. Are you a ranger?
I'm going to be, yes.
Okay, never mind. You're already going to have Hunter's Mark.
Yeah.
Honestly, I guess I'll give it to myself. Fuck it.
Okay. Favorite enemy, we do... Oh, what am I going to do for favorite enemy?
Helter, you're going to make me miss my Bard Rogue. I love dual hand crossbow. What's the college that gives you all the fancy shots and strikes? Valor, maybe?
I think it's College of Valor. I don't remember.
One of them. The one.
Bounty Hunter.
Double shrimped. I didn't even notice the shrimping. Okay, I'm down. I'm down in my seat. I'm sorry. Whatever I've done, I'm sorry. Ugh. Hi, someone else.
Someone else?
Captain, have you seen my new fit? Why am I shiny?
No,
What's
not
going on
yet.
with that?
I haven't seen the whole do up yet. I'm currently changing my thing. Oh, what would you consider trading for the archer's bracers?
Oh.
Or are they a key element? I can deal
They're not
without
a key.
them if I have
No,
to.
yeah, they're fine. Let me grab them off her.
Be a strong bond. Yep. Okay. Still Saloon Deity. Not real keen on changing the stats. It starts good stats wise. Confirm.
The party's full. You'll need
And then we do our level ups. Da-da-da-do. Spells. We get a cheeky hunter's mark. We get speed with animals. Archery.
Shoes. That you're not
Do I have any
using?
what?
Does anyone have? Oh wait, no. I have all the fancy. Never mind.
I do have some stuff in my chest. If you let me finish my level up, I'll go see what I got.
No. I found some good stuff.
Ooh, Swarm Keeper. Didn't we look at that last time?
Swarm Keeper's pretty fun. Not as Not as fun late level as the regular Beastmaster,
Yeah.
but it gives you a lot of movement options, a lot of teleporting and flying.
Swarm of bees that flies on your side. Moths. Oh, the moths.
There are moths. There are moths.
Yeah. I don't know. It's kind of hard not to do Beastmaster for me.
It's fun. It's way too fun. They built it up good. Crazy the things they buff and the things they nerf. I guess Sorcerer is already a pretty good bomber and doesn't need the help, but like, come on. Give it to me anyway.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's why I'm not wearing the hat.
There we go. And the level 5. Okay.
I hate when I'm shining and I don't know why. Ah, temporary hit points. It just like it messes with the look.
I don't need dark vision. I've got all the benefits of vision wise I need.
Let's have a look.
Yeah, Druid doing what she's told? Never heard of it. Ooh, okay. I'm gonna take this. Party members should not be holding on to spare scrolls of revival. We should have that shit. Should have that shit on us.
Oh my god. It's funny because... Hold on. How did this equate? So... 13 AC from armor, 4 from dexterity with the level 2 padded armor. When I put that one outfit back on, my AC is still 17 because I get 10 from base armor. Become the bulwark. Oh yeah, that's right. Literally, I have the same AC with that infernal robe or the +2 padded armor.
Ah.
But I will continue to get better the other way.
Fair.
Maybe. Really, it doesn't matter. But this outfit is a vibe. All right. I'm going to pass along to you the Everburn Blade.
Cool.
To do with whatever you decide. I no longer need it. We're not going back. I put those on. Gloves of Archery. Do an additional 2 damage. I'm also passing you the Bracers of Oh, that's why I was getting it. I also had the Bracers of Defense on, which I'm now passing to you to do with as you please. Yeah, see, now with the Infernal Robes, my AC is 15. All right. Here is Infernal Robe to do with as you please.
Damn. All the cool stuff.
Yeah. I'm using significantly less. I'm still going to use the Swarzy shoes.
Most of this going straight to Karlach.
Yeah, the Swarzy shoes are staying on. Sorry, love, the shoes.
No, they're
on.
Good.
Let's see, acrobatic. 5 extra feet of jump and then another 10 feet of movement with the thing. We're sitting pretty baller.
Oops.
Oh, did you grab that bow?
Which bow?
The Spell Thief.
Ah, shit. No, I knew I was reading something.
You're fine. I am. If you will grab that, I'm sending you a few more things to sell.
Cool.
Sorry, folks. We're doing strategy meeting here.
Don't even apologize. This is the joy of D&D. Numbers lovers.
Yeah.
This is...
I have... Okay, the only other pair of boots I have is the Spider Step boots.
Helta's sparking in her pants.
I have... What I have left in my chest is the Nature Snare Staff. The one I can do in Snare.
Ah, that's a really good one.
So
If you hit somebody with it. I've got the Steel Forged Sword, the +1 short sword.
That could go to Lae'zel, actually.
Yeah, I'll send her. We have the Poisoner's Robe. When the wearer casts a spell that deals poison damage, it deals an additional 1d4 poison.
Very silly. Very bad.
Very silly.
I just never sell...
Embrace.
I never sell magic stuff.
I'm
There's-
hard pressed, especially if it has that little tag. Gale can absorb this,
right.
which the spider steps. I think my vote is using the spider step boots next for that. By the way, I don't see us really needing them after we've already done that big spider fight.
There might be some crazy side boss battles that we don't know about,
Maybe.
but we wouldn't be prepared for
our
them
options
anyway.
open. Yeah.
So-
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna take a quick second and
Okay.
change a couple of things cosmetically, because this is no longer Esker. I basically built Jonah, so I'm about to go make Jonah. I think you can even change their name in here.
Valid. There it is. Spell Thief. Crazy how cheap Spell Thief is.
Yeah. Well, in retrospect, like it's a good like you get that if you manage to get the crit and get that spell slot back, it's really dope.
Right.
It's not that strong of a bow damage wise.
This is true.
Like it's genuinely not.
Okay.
Where? Yep. Okay. So that. The actual hairstyle for the OG Jonah build for this game is the same. So the only thing, Jonah was technically a human. Can't change that, but it is what it
Right.
is. We retcon. We retcon.
We retcon these things.
Yeah.
We
yeah,
gaslight.
color-
It was always that way. Don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah. It was Strawberry Blonde 3.
Okay. I have spent a lot of our money on shit that is likely useless to us.
Okay.
But there's not another shop for a while.
Yeah.
Well, actually, we could buy from the old lady who wants us to steal an egg. I think she has
Why
some
did my
good
hair
stuff.
turn purple?
Uh-oh.
Strawberry Blonde 3, damn it. There.
God, this
Confirmed.
sword is fucking baller as shit.
Okay. Yep, even the name change works. It is now Jonah in the list.
Sick. Oh, yeah. That's Jesus, a whole new guy.
A whole
Fuck.
new world.
Where'd you come from?
Yeah, I did that in the middle of a campaign. I actually traded Jonah out for Scout. I had gotten comfortable enough. Like Jonah was my very first D&D character ever. Emmy sat down and helped me build him before I started playing as a guest in his campaign, and then became a permanent member. I had gotten comfortable with D&D at that point and wanted to branch out and try something else, and we were at a point in the campaign where it was a good opportunity to do so. So we kind of just retconned Jonah's story in that campaign getting wrapped up, and then meeting a new character,
Hell yeah.
which was
We're ready
the
to head to your camp. Are you?
what's the magic subclass called for fighter?
Eldritch Knight.
It was an Eldritch Knight Wizard, Scout Crossing, whose tattoos and ink and were his spellbook.
Jesus Christ. I didn't notice earlier. Helt is on a 70 stream streak. That's fucking crazy.
Oh shit! Stream streak. I'm glad you said something. I got to pull your stream back up. I'm not losing mine.
Both of you have crazy large streaking habits going
Yeah.
on. You really gotta talk to someone about that.
I'm at 92 right now.
Jesus Christ.
I actually lost. I had like 125 streak in someone's channel, and I lost it because I knew I was gonna miss the stream. I was like, okay, well, I'll just watch the VOD because their stream's gonna be over by the time I get done doing what I'm doing. But when I get back home, I can just watch 10 minutes of the VOD and keep it. No, I went home and went to sleep.
Ooh.
Completely forgot.
I didn't know you could do that with the VOD.
Yeah, if the VOD's there, you can watch 10 minutes of a VOD for that streamer and maintain your streak.
Huh.
Now, what it is, you have 24 hours to watch another one of their streams or watch the VOD of the stream you missed. So, like, if it's a streamer that like, you missed my stream last night, but I
Right.
streamed today, you could watch my stream and still maintain your streak and get the extra tick mark.
I see.
You would just have to watch. You'd have to watch 10 minutes of today's stream to maintain your streak, and then another 10 minutes to continue it.
Oh, kind of sick.
But if I did not stream the next day, you just need to watch 10 minutes of the VOD from the night before.
Super sick.
And they change how that works a lot. They change how it works. It's finicky. Sometimes it will say you maintained your streak, even though it didn't count it. So it'll throw the tick mark like, hey, 92 to 93. And then like you'll look later and be like, oh, why is my streak gone? Because it said it counted it, but it didn't. One of the many things on Twitch's back end that is wishy-washy, and we don't really get much information about how it works on the back end.
Of course not.
Hey,
Druid lost hers in Casualty of War, and Helta, you're in the middle of the ocean? Good. I need you to stop earning points. So you can't keep robbing me. You can't keep getting away with this.
Helta, give me your login info. I'll keep your streaks for you. I'll be responsible with it.
Give me your stream key. I would never do anything silly and or goofy. Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted you though. What were you saying?
I was just thinking out loud.
Okay. Do you want me to start the party?
I think. Damn, Carlette, you looking spiffy. Damn, girl.
Dripped her out in clothes she's never meant to have.
Yeah. Yeah. If you want to. Oh wait. Did you give me Spell Thief?
Yes, I will give it to you shortly.
Okay.
I'm
gonna be weird pressed on which one to use because I have Bow of Awareness. I need to see what the damage would be.
Your initiative still. Yeah. Hold on.
Before you spend the money on it, let me.
I already got it.
You already got it.
Yeah.
Okay. I can, depending on the situation, I can flip flop.
Yeah.
No, Spell Thief does more damage. Okay, that was what I was worried about.
That's what I thought. Spell Thief is a longbow.
Yeah. I forgot Spell Thief was a longbow and Bow Awareness was a short bow. However, if you have somebody that needs a bump up, we can put Bow Awareness in their slot and they can just...
I'm debating if I want the Hunter's Mark short bow or the Bow of Awareness. Because my initiative, if I remember, is shit.
The Titan String bow is such a good thing for Shadowheart.
Oh, you mean Lae'zel?
Or yeah, Lae'zel.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, my initiative is -1. I think I will, in fact, take that off your hands if you don't mind.
Yeah. It's in your inventory.
If anybody wants Hunter's Mark for free and doesn't use up their bow slot, I guess we could give it to Shadowheart, but she's not often making weapon attacks.
She now has Herald. I forgot she had that.
Ah, sick. Oh yeah, she's pretty dex based.
Yeah.
A good bow is good.
Yeah, Herald, good thing for her. I was gonna give you the ritual dagger to do with as you please. That's what I forgot to do.
I probably have nothing. Well, I guess I could give it to Lae'zel. She's got nothing else going on there.
Yeah, and I think just so she has something in her hands, I'll give her that for now. The Shattered Flail. Actually,
do you have any other cool bows? Oh no, the short bow. Or the short sword.
What is that doing? 6, 8. Yeah, okay, that'll work for now. We'll get you something better. Shadowheart, one day.
One day.
Because like you said, she's really not. I mean, the other thing that would work really for her is nothing. There's nothing really good clerical base for her right now.
Oh, this is actually kind of a sick combo with the short sword knife, because you can bloodlight yourself, and then if you hit with an attack, I'm not sure if you have to hit with the... Oh no, it's successful attack with this dagger. So yeah, if I keep it in my main hand, I can get plus 2d4 to all my attacks. Which is pretty sick.
Let's get going.
W.
Oh, enough waiting. I
Ooh,
crave
excuse me.
blood.
Sargi.
Sergi.
Still breathing, despite everything.
All the pets. All the pets. Look at me. I'm on my way.
Drip or fucking drown. Oh, you also got... Cute.
Grab your bags. We're moving.
We're moving.
Oh, you're talking. Oh, yeah, that's right. I was gonna go talk to Halson. Get that out of the way. I forgot. You ever forgot? Happened
Not-
to me.
Not once. Not ever. I've never forgot
Yeah.
a thing in my life.
Uh-huh. Yeah, sure.
Good moment to talk.
Family vacation? That's sweet.
I've not done a family vacation in years.
I think I just did my first.
Running off into the sunset, but you did it.
Actually did it!
We did. With the goblins dead, we might actually make it to Baldur's Gate.
The Rite of Thorns.
Collectors in the city. They'll pay good
Time
coin
to
for
press
it, I
ahead.
swear.
Fine, but you're carrying it yourself.
Oh god. Computer. Stop that.
Heltrel didn't
Sometimes
want us,
the act of
and I
going
threw
into a
it so
dialogue
hell
makes
to
my
buy
computer
it.
bog down, and I don't know
But you-
what's doing that.
You risked your life for us. It won't be easy in Baldur's Gate, but I hope it'll be better than here at least.
There we go.
How would I know what? What are you talking about?
What is it?
No, I forget what I said.
Oh.
Druid's responding to.
Oh.
Seems
Oh.
How would you know if you never forgot something? True. Oh, I can't.
Yeah. Miss Never Forget.
Hey, Captain.
Yeah.
Could you talk to, after you're done talking to that bear, talk to this bear?
Oh, is it the one with at the elevator?
Yeah. I guess
Yeah,
you
I
don't
got
need
it.
to. Why would I need to go down there, I guess?
No, open up. All paths open. All paths lead to home.
I'll pause.
The wonders of having speak with animals as a ritual.
It's really good. The fact that Speak with Animals lasts till long rest is sick.
Yeah. And I go talk to the boar, everybody's favorite boar. Oh, we need to get our reward from Wrath before we leave.
That's right.
Haunches.
Cool pike.
Yeah, sorrow.
Wolf with a hat.
Wolf with a hat.
I wish you could
Hard hat.
talk to your own summoned animals. It'd be cool if they had a personality.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Master House.
Blessed dead, you kept your word.
For someone like me,
Thank you.
I'll be modest.
Oh, crazy god thing I could say to Nettie? Sure.
I hoped you had other motives.
Sorry, I'm having to do some stretches real
But
quick.
I'll take what I can get. But here, to mend any hurts.
Oh, she does give you a thing. I never talked to her before.
Friggin' arthritis in my knees been acting up because the weather changing so much here lately. It's been bothering me.
Ooh. Oh my god, Nettie, go fuck yourself. You saved our head druid. Here's an apple and a mugwort. Fuck off.
Yeah. Inventory. Where's that? I know I'm looking over it. Latest. Combine.
You did this grove a great favor. And now leave the rest.
Opening
to
everything
us.
up.
Yippee, yippee, yippee.
Free stuff, free stuff. Okay. There we go.
Can I use my power as head creep to influence Moth to steal the golden idol? Now Helta. Now Helta. Let's...
So why does touching it give me a knot in my stomach?
Do we learn more lore about this glaive? Or is it just that voice line?
It's got to be an important glaive in lore somewhere.
Right?
No traps, please.
What about you? No, because then you can't shield. And you don't get a lot out of it. I'm gonna pass it along to you. You'll get more use out of it.
Sorrow?
Sorrow, if you want to use it.
Probably not. But maybe. I guess I don't need a 20 AC.
No. If you want, like, give it to someone else if you need, or do something. I can't really use it with what I got going on here.
Right.
And Lazel, or not Shadowheart can't either.
You know what? It's not a bad thing to give.
The max damage Shadowheart can get with it is 11.
Not ideal.
And
not
she has
ideal.
to give up her and she has to give up her shield to use it.
Yeah.
If I was doing a fighter build, I would be on that shit all day long. But
right.
All right. I think
I've dexed my fighter out.
Yeah. I think if you're ready for the party, I'm ready for the party.
Yeah, let's do it. Sexy druid on the floor. They just leave her there?
Druid, what are you doing on the floor?
Druid, what are you doing?
Funny. Oh yeah, I keep forgetting that I'm shirtless for this.
Yeah.
Excuse me, I gotta go talk to my girlfriend.
Real? Asterion wants to talk to me first. Oh, he no longer. I walked towards him and he said fuck off. I think he wanted to talk to you, actually.
I think he wants to talk to me, which is weird because we have conversed 0 times.
Legs from its belly to fashion into blades. Yet they could not match your nerve today. It was enough to.
Lazel wants me bad again?
I smell their blood on you still. I smell your moisture.
She keeps smelling me?
A glorious reward for a glorious battle. Go on, have your fun. And do not take away a
She said don't bathe. I'll be there soon.
Jesus Christ.
That's crazy? That's fucking crazy, Lazel?
Oh yeah, I'm still covered in blood from the fight.
Yeah.
Find you after everyone turned in for the night.
You have no. The singing we could probably do without. But
I'm gonna shut up. Stop being down bad for imaginary women, Captain.
Go on, do your
But
rounds.
why else be on the internet?
Something purple,
Yeah.
Don't drink it. I think they got into Ethel's potions.
Cap is getting a smooch. It's just a smooch though.
Just a little kiss.
Yeah.
In truth, I rarely imbibe. The stuff goes right to my head. Before you know it, I'd be
Not bad.
breaking
Think
into
about all the
song
goblins you
or
killed, even though you were at
after
camp the
the
entire
first
time.
person I laid eyes on.
Oh my god, Helson's so cute. What the fuck?
Then you have never heard me singing, which makes you very fortunate.
I always try the wine.
Go on, enjoy yourself. Seek out some wine before it runs dry. There are a lot of thirsty people around here.
Oh, it's a dry sharp. See? It's awful. God, I love him. He's such an annoying little fuck.
This might be the wine talking.
Knowing you, it
but
probably
I'm
is.
feeling inspired.
Hey now.
Thinking of writing my next song about you.
You're a rock star?
Get your game on?
I need an angle.
God, I've talked to you 0 times. Why are you coming on to me? Oh.
Sure, I'll do the half-orc line.
Absolutely. With a foot
Jesus,
in
you
two
whore.
worlds, you're the force joining both. You're going to love it.
Down bad man.
And we love him for it.
Yeah. Did you talk to Halson?
I did.
What about Alfira?
I did. She's a cutie.
Yeah.
Does this take the voice lines from you?
No, actually, it doesn't. She's gonna make a song for me too.
Nice.
And with good potations too.
Potations.
We'll do high half elf. It's the only like signature.
Fuck yes. I'm celebrating my freedom and our friendship and these folks' bright future besides.
Huzzah!
All I need now is a fire retardant lover to get lost in till sunrise.
Are you gonna talk to Sad Boy out at the beach or let him sulk?
I might let him sulk. He never likes my compliments.
Yeah. Charisma. Have a pint or two.
It
He'll
would be
like
crazy to confess to Karlak in this moment. It would be crazy.
You too, soldier. Enjoy yourself tonight.
W, we win these rolls.
Patience.
Roland, I love him.
Have you no respect for showmanship?
Having performance issues.
Yeah.
I love that trio.
Yeah, they're so cool.
And behold.
And then you can just clap.
Adoring applause? You're too kind.
Remember when he could barely cast that?
They grow up so fast.
Never have I met such troglodytes. Now, pass the wine.
How British.
I really love him in the second act. I feel like
Yeah.
they do a good job of balancing his more annoying features with like a realistic kind of breakdown.
Yeah. Game? I wanted to go talk to Mole, please.
Talk to my random tiefling crush. Lacrissa, why don't you have more lines? I love you.
Yeah, please.
Certainly am. Cheers to many more like this.
Sounds dangerously close to a compliment, Mole.
Go on. The others will kill me if I keep you all to myself.
Thank you.
I'm sure you're welcome.
There's that confidence I like.
Thank you for seeking me out.
Oh,
Amid
you,
this merriment, I wasn't sure we'd have a chance to speak this evening.
Oh.
Where our bond
He's a flirt. I like being flirted with.
even have shared a moment of
Oh, we're our bondable. Wow, he's not interested. That's
Alas,
weird.
Our fledgling acquaintanceship has not yet taken flight.
He wouldn't have been either way. He would have been like, no, you're off with some other lass.
Yeah.
Because
I
I've
wonder what
already
happens if I
promised my
talk to
way
him.
time.
Let
He
me-
might like you.
Let me take a gander. Yeah, because Astarion came on to me, and I've said 0 words to him.
I mean, look at what you're wearing.
Here.
There's that confidence
I'm sure. Welcome.
I thank you for seeking me out. Amid all this merriment, I wasn't sure what... I was hoping you'd spare me a moment.
Oh, yep. Yep. Yep.
Look at yourself. I mean, how could he resist?
Yeah. Look at
Just
me.
the two of you. There's something unspeakable about Shadowheart. But I mean that in a good way. She seems to me like a bird on
He's
the
like, I do. This is when it's like you're weird for like doing this, but the compliment is like I get it.
Yeah, he stays to his guns of his personality.
Yeah,
and it's weirdly endearing. It's just when you actually didn't peg you, not yet.
No, wait.
Or rather, for as long as you've eyes only for someone else among our troop. Another night, perhaps.
Another night, perhaps. So not tonight, but you're willing to ask me to commit adultery on another night.
Well, I mean, maybe you lose interest by then.
Yeah. I think we have talked to
everyone I want to. Oh, there's one sulker I will try to talk to.
Oh, the beer. I got him a drink.
Yeah.
Your friend already forced a pint on me. Thanks.
Aw, there is a line for that. Cute.
What did he say?
He said, your friend already forced a pint on me. Thanks.
Yeah. We're not gonna have no Debbie Downers when I'm involved in the party.
Are you talking to Will?
No, he can sulk.
He can sulk. I just so often play a tiefling, and I'm like, I think your horns are cute, and he's like, you're making fun of me. It's like, well, fuck you too, then. Fucking
yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna go look at my magic box button and get ready to press it at a moment's notice.
Oh yeah.
I'm ready to go to bed. You ready to go to bed?
Yeah. I got a bottle of wine to drink with someone.
Yippee! Oh, that is such a cute scene. Make sure it's good party food. Don't you cheap out on us.
Okay.
I'll know. I won't know. I won't know anything. Don't feed us dwarf. That'd be fucked up.
53 of our 80 camp points. 57 of our 80 points is coming from alcohol.
Excellent work. Excellent work.
So we got alcohol, we got ribs, pork leg, pork loin.
There's that chef captain.
And a big wedge of cheese.
I'm trying to get in your wedge of
Yeah.
cheese.
Yeah. Finish it. Finish it.
I can't.
Use your words.
I can't.
Use your mouth. Use your mouth.
Use my mouth?
You picked up a few pleasant memories on your journey amongst your struggles.
Anyway.
Crazy weather.
Aches pleasingly with the memory of past bruises.
I'm gonna go talk to Shadowheart now.
Yeah, have fun.
Hey, I'm no longer covered in blood.
I could. Oh. Okay.
Oh, did I?
No, it's okay. You hate me.
No, there you go. I have it off by default in case there's a situation.
In case there's a situation.
There, you can watch now.
And I will. And I love her.
Wouldn't dream of missing it.
So eager. I'm surprised it took you this long. Well, to begin, I think a toast is in order. Any suggestions?
To us.
Bold. What does us entail?
I love her.
I suppose I'll find out.
Yeah.
To us.
She's just the perfect amount of snark. She
Yep.
Something about yourself. tadpoles, dragons, marauding goblins, or anything like that. Something about you.
Yeah, let's
Seems like you
share a
truly
little
know the
bit.
city. I never got to explore it to my liking.
Cult keep you indoors.
Not just as things are getting interesting.
Ooh.
Risking it.
Ooh, do we have inspirations? Do we have inspirations? Oh god. Oh god. Oh god.
I'm sure we do. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think it lowers her approval if you fail that one, but I'm not sure.
Don't laugh, but
yeah.
I'm not quite sure I have anything to share. When you worship Shard, secrecy
I can't wait
is everything.
for you to get to Act 3 and like see more about her story because we're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
They're lost to me right now.
Oh, we got to add in 1 minute on my side. Just a heads up.
Cute.
Wrong. You like Nike orchids and you can't swim. You told me once.
I did, and you remembered.
Yeah.
You're sweet.
I
do like to play like the puppy dog a little bit character on this
Is that
aspect.
accurate to Jonah?
Not necessarily, but not. It's like, oh, I'll be a puppy dog for right now.
I like it. I like watching you flirt with imaginary women.
Yeah.
Nearly light. The others will be awake soon. What?
You're beautiful.
I know.
That line right there. That line right there sealed the deal for me for her as a character.
Me too.
She trails off. You read an invitation in her eyes.
Going for it.
I really love how the game handles it if you don't.
All right, female Han Solo.
God, it's accurate, isn't it? Oh no.
I find it hilarious that this is the moment that I have an ad break.
Oh no. poor cadets.
I should think so. Let's head back, if we must.
You're beautiful. I know.
Cat, we're in. I know that right there. That moment was like, yeah, you're like peak character for me. That confidence,
right?
Really does it.
For all your efforts, it was well deserved. It may be some time before you're afforded another such night. There is much to be done, and I promised I would help you however I could. I'm certain a cure for you can be found at Moonrise Towers, but it's complicated. The journey specifically,
Of course.
it's extremely perilous.
And then turn around today, she's like, everything's all right, right? It's like, yeah, okay, you got some wine in you, and you got a lot more confidence than you were prepared to have.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. I get that completely.
I feel that too hard, actually.
Yeah.
Wait, to get this, any who linger
Meant a lot to me, and I hope there's more to come.
the curse, they become
Liquid courage, that's right, Druid.
tormented, dangerous souls.
I'm having a much more boring conversation. Child.
You're half right. You could go overland.
All right, we're gonna close that, and I'm gonna ask you to keep chat occupied for a minute while I run to the restroom again. My water is fighting me.
Alrighty. Captain's pregnant. Spread the
Chat,
word.
be good.
Oh.
Long ago,
Hadn't left yet.
built a secret stronghold deep down there before rallying a whole army of dark justiciars, Shah worshippers. Hamden and his lot were looking for a way down there. They were promised riches if they retrieved a relic called the Night Song. But I think there's more. From this stronghold Ketheric's forces could access both the Temple of Seluna and Moonrise Tower.
I have been pregnant with a water baby. On the way through the border back home after vacation, I was breaking out in a cold sweat so deep. It was possibly the worst moment of my life. It was... Oh, I'm already good at that.
Already? If only I'd gone with you instead of Aiden. I would like to join your camp, if you'll allow me.
Of course, beautiful. We're gonna try and get you to drink before the campaign is out.
Unfinished business, and a lifetime of regret to repair. I helped overthrow Ketheric Thorm and his dark justiciars years ago, but I failed to prevent him from unleashing darkness across the region before he was defeated.
Oh, I saved the land, but I didn't do it good enough.
Trying to put an end to
It is sweet. It is cool.
Yet, if I can join you and get close to Moonrise, perhaps I can lift this curse. Same as you may find a cure for your infection.
Cool. Let's go. Well, I will actually ask. No, I know that. What about the Grove? I like this line. I love Helson? Yeah, you would, wouldn't you?
Yes, you would.
Couldn't Nettie take over?
I need her to stay focused on her training. The Grove will need a skilled healer in my absence. The Grove needs to move beyond the mistakes of the past. What it needs is an unknown.
This is one of my favorite exchanges with Halcyon.
Oh yeah.
Without bias. This is why I chose Francesca. She will restore simplicity and purity to the Grove in my absence.
Not as much as I love Asterion. Real. Very shrewd of you.
Contrary to how some think of us, we druids can play politics when necessary.
Yeah.
Now, we've quite the journey ahead.
I like that line a lot.
Let's get started.
Do not be so impatient to move on as Halcyon. As ever, the Githyanki crush remains.
Ah, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But first, a witch. A witch to kill. And we're gonna try and nuke her, right? That's our plan?
I don't know if we'll be able to nuke her. I won't be able to nuke her now.
I can pull out maybe 80 damage. Maybe. More likely 40.
Yeah, I think we get 2 attacks. I don't have to. I could bring out the tank. Oh, no, I'm dumb. Yeah, I can, because the boar, now that we're level 5, my boar has, like, an actual rage. Where are you?
I'm gonna go to the Blighted Village.
Okie dokie.
I think that's the closest.
Oh. Blighted Village?
Yeah, I just, like, I don't know. I have an extreme distaste for anyone who, like, views politicking as anything other than what it is, which is trying to make a good, like, trying to run a large amount of people, you know?
Yeah.
So when Halcyon's like, no, we can play politics, I run a grove of, like, 50 fucking druids. Of course I need to play politics. Of course we know how to do it. I like it a lot. Oh, hydrate. Speaking of, I have water here, but it's a day old and I can taste it. So I'm gonna go replace that, but I will stretch before I do that.
Get you a good stretch in. Chat, I miss Moth.
I'm still here.
Oh. It's like I can still hear her voice.
All right, now I'm gone. I'll be right back.
Oh, Druid? Now you're over here trying to get me wet? It's working. Ah, good water. Thank you. I was very thirsty. I no longer have the strength to push her. Actually, looking at the build, I could pump out some good damage. Do I have a different? What's Fluent's dream? Possibly falls asleep. No. What do you have? You don't really have anything. Oh god, I need to send those to camp. Send that to camp. Okay, there's my carrying capacity. Thirsty? My whole job is to get thirsty bitches? Okay. Task handled successfully.
You called?
How are you doing?
I heard thirsty bitches.
Yeah, I said something to Druid about making drink. She said, my whole job is to get thirsty bitches. And I was like, all right, well, task completed.
It's true. I'm here.
Yeah. Huzzah! Buh.
Blah.
Brain bamblage.
Brain bamblage.
Oh, there's a fucking... This is not a nice place when you succeed that skill check.
Oh yeah, no, it's fucking hideous. Hey.
Wait, did you try to take just now?
You know, walking around. The paths are mostly clear.
Making my way downtown, walking fast.
There's that crazy fucking frog over here. Don't know what the fuck's up with him, but we should not tango with him.
No, there is a cool person on our left up here.
Cool is a word.
Yeah. Do we want to converse?
Let's kill the witch first. Do we want to drink the well water?
I forget what happens when you drink the well water.
It makes you more powerful, but the next long rest you do, you'll wake up a little weaker until your next long rest.
If you want to drink it, I won't stop you.
No,
or is it like, is it all or none?
No. I have no idea if it's all or nothing, but I don't think we need it. So,
okay,
just kind of a waste of 80 food is what it is.
Actually, just so I can like maximize my uses of my beast companions, I'll start this engagement with
the wolf
with Lupus, and then I'll bring out the boar if I need it.
Do we want to not try to use up our resources on this then and let her flee, or do we want to try and blast her with all we got?
I don't. What are you thinking? Do you think we can do it? Do a one trick?
How much health does she have? I don't know.
I don't know in For Honor mode.
Oh yeah, it's probably gonna be more.
Yeah, it's gonna be more, and she's gonna have the legendary actions.
Yeah, I can only do 40, guaranteed.
Yeah. We'll try to economy this at first and see what happens.
Okay.
I used to have a job with the best job description ever. I used to work in a factory building boat trailers. My specific task was installing the tongues on the trailers. The area I worked was called bottoms because we worked on the bottoms of the trailers. So my job description was I worked tongues on bottoms.
Oh, God, the dream. The fucking dream.
Yep. Oh, did I step too far in? I stepped too far in.
You're doing it. It's you.
It's me. I guess you can get in position. Fuck him up, Buttercup.
Oh, should I just jump her?
We'll talk to her for a second, but I always jump her. I don't trust this woman ever, character-wise. Wait, Helta, down, girl.
Feel free to relax yourself and have a cuppa. Gods grant me patience. Eat up, Mayrina. I won't say it again.
That's one of my favorite ISO emotes. The please.
Please. It's good. It's really good.
Yeah. What are you thinking? How do I say this?
This is your one opportunity to tell Mayrina about her siblings. It won't give you the opportunity later. So, up to you.
I'll do it.
That hole under your nose. Shut.
Ooh.
Things will get messy.
You know what that sounds like to me? Leverage.
Ooh.
What is it? What's going on?
Oh, it does count. Oh, that's new.
That's not always been like that.
Awesome.
Such dramatics.
Off, away with you.
Whoop.
I guess they didn't change
Bam,
any
bam.
voice lines, but they gave you that little nod in case you chose to do that. Which is good.
You'll regret.
Oh, should I stab her? I'll stab her. Oh, she's. I missed.
Oh, if you try to do it before she changes, she just immediately changes.
Ah.
You know, there's no opportunity to kill her while she's in human form. It just changes her form and then starts this off.
I see. Do you want to
Let
march
me-
forward and see if you can see her?
Yeah.
It's a save. Here, let me get out of your way if I'm. Oh no, you're good.
Is it a action?
No,
or
it's just you'll get near enough. A hidden save is made.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I think it's
I'm
not.
out of movement. Yeah.
Hey!
Oh, hey!
Thought she might be there.
Oh, disadvantage because I got so fucking close. Okay.
Oof.
Oofington. Wait. Can I get any closer?
I could try
Let me
and
read something real
banish
quick.
her. No, we can't get our stuff if we kill her here.
Yeah, we don't get like the full beans. They used to let you have the full beans, but
You
I
can
think
just
they
take it
changed
off her body. It's pretty sick. Okay. Yeah, I'll let her. Ooh. That's per long rest, isn't it?
I think so. But I'll let it. You know, I'll do the shriek. That's all I'll do right now.
Fair. It made me waste my action when I tried to attack her in human form.
Kitty.
Kitty. Here for moral support.
It can meow. It can claw.
The meow's not bad. Free minor illusion.
Game. Please. There we go. Game.
Woof.
Woofington. Okay. My god. It wants to target there. Okay.
Yeah.
Good for me.
I think she heals to full anyway, no matter what we do to her.
Yeah, if she gets through here, she does.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, lovelies.
It's okay. I'm gonna rob her blind.
There is potion of healing right here. I'm gonna take that.
It would have been very clever of the game to poison all these potions, but I suppose she does sell potions, so it makes
Yeah.
sense that she has worthwhile ones.
The craftsmanship is impressive.
Now that you mention it, I can't remember who taught me. Another memory lost.
I like how they add in random dialogue with the NPCs.
I might learn it from you.
That was weirdly friendly, guys.
Yeah.
That's
and they
cute.
haven't even had their little tiff yet, I don't think.
Right?
They get really friendly after that.
Yeah.
Oh, go back. I saw one. I saw one out here. Potion of healing. Grilled Roth ribs. and an antidote. And there's a letter from M. Let me read it. Da-da-da, forces work at Baldur's Gate. Mewling wretches are trying to edge me out of my own territory. I've killed at least 4 of their agents. None have talked, not yet. Doubt you hear anything beyond the bleat of your ridiculous sheep. But if you ever catch even a whisper, tell me immediately, M.
Damn. She does not fuck with our sheep.
Yeah. I'm gonna be wise, unlike I have been in the past, and turn the fireplace off before I walk through it.
I don't think it does hurt you.
I swear it did at one point, or I maybe was taking damage
have.
from something else.
Has to put my hands on everything.
Right. Down into the reaches.
I will resist interacting with anything until the witch is dead.
Are we going to try and save those people?
Yeah, I mean, at least the one that we know. Like, I don't mind metagaming it a bit.
You'll have to tell me which one it is, because I don't know.
The short one with the hammer.
Okay, hammer.
Hammer.
Oh, talk to you.
You think I'm thick? Aw, well, you know, I work hard. Also, do you like my fit? Like the colors?
It is very styling. It's very styling.
Thank you.
What color did you use?
So what? It's like blackened alabaster or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Has that wriggler eaten your brain already? Leave, or you'll end up in tonight's stew. It'll go nicely with Mayrina. She's already marinating.
I'm gonna cut your head off.
You're lucky your hair is so delicious.
What's that?
What is this place?
I'm trying to remember the exact words. I was playing in a one-shot with some friends that I went to high school with.
Mm-hmm.
And one that my buddy that invited me along, he was playing a barbarian. And I can't remember what he was picking up. Somebody was drunk picking a fight with him at a tavern, but he had like 13, 14 friends in the tavern. So it was like the DM said, "Look, I'll keep it a buck with you here," because we had asked for perception check. She said, "This guy wants to fight. His friends don't want to fight, but this guy wants to fight. But if you fight him, there's a good chance his friends are going to jump in and help him out." And the guy walked up and poked my buddy playing the barbarian in the chest and was basically like that, like, "You best leave." And my buddy playing barbarian said, leaned in, and it was something along the lines of like, "I'm gonna pick you up and I'm gonna rip you in half at the waist, and I'm gonna put you back together, but upside down," or some shit like that, and did it as an intimidation check. And that's just like where my brain goes to every time she's like, "You best leave." Like, I'm gonna kill you.
You still got your barbarian brain. You can take the you can put a ranger in there, but we all know where your heart's at.
Yeah, the heart wants what the heart wants.
No time to chat. I'm here to kill your mom.
Yeah.
Through the door, shrouded in the glow of the divine. Weapons brandished, they charge into the hag's lair. Screams of terror pierce the air.
You let them in? Naughty. That's a decade for each. You're mine for 30 more years, peddler.
You see an image of blue skies and sunshine as the door shudders a warning. Run. Its form flickers, and you realize that the door is transparent.
Hey guy, you're nothing. I can see right through you.
As she sets fire to the door.
Have you ever went and looked at where they obviously made another door like this deeper in here, but it doesn't work or go anywhere?
You can get in there.
Will it let you in? I've never been able to get through it.
You have to wear her mask.
Okay.
But it's a shortcut to the Feywild. Or not to the Feywild, to the Underdark.
Underdark. Okay, that's one of the other ways. And
there's an easier way in, but I don't remember how. You probably got to talk to him, don't you? Oh, no. Nice. Okay. Walk really close, turn base it, and then try and get prepped.
Let's switch to. I'm gonna do non-lethal.
Fair.
All right, that's done. Go back here. Honestly, I say we just see how close we can get right now while we have the opportunity.
Okay.
Oh. Guys, come back. Guys, come back. Guys, come back.
Well.
Did you lock them in?
Yep, and they all get their turn first.
Okay.
If you want to try and interrupt their... Ah, that's something. No. Okay. Sick.
There we go. Okay.
Victory awaits.
I got him. I did something.
We did something.
Oh, wait.
I can probably get a shot off.
Shadowheart's still not in.
Oh,
Hold
nice.
On.
I'm gonna shoot Mask of Terror. Hopefully not do 17 damage.
I'm gonna do Mask. I'm gonna start hitting whopping Mask of Servitude. Do not do Touch of Death. Do not do Touch of Death.
Do not pass go. Do not.
Yeah. Do not collect $200. Okay. Mask of Terror is knocked out.
Hold on, before you slap that person. Let me try.
I've got less pommel strike, so I'm gonna save it because it's not really gonna do anything.
Fair. Oh, that could have been bad.
Oh my god. Kitty cat, kitty cat, kitty cat.
I shouldn't risk it again. But I can shoot her. I'm not gonna do 31 damage, that would be crazy. No, I'm not gonna do any damage. Sick.
Is that there? There.
Ah. Wow. She fucking nuked your cat. She... That's fucked up. You have ice cream? Ooh. I kind of want ice cream.
Ooh.
Meow.
Yeah, what's up, Pixel? We know good.
Oh, this is gonna hurt. Oh no, it's fine.
What? No, do not touch a death.
Oh, you're using the Bone Club?
Yeah, that's the only thing I got that does decent damage for her right now.
Hell yeah.
Oh, big jump.
Big jump. Hi.
Stop that. Oh,
yeah. That's her thing. Oh, are you kidding me?
You have one hit point.
That was fucked up. Just gonna shoot her.
I had to do it. She's still just knocked out. Hi, friend. Wow. It really wants me to touch death.
Right?
How's VG going? It's going. This is my first For Honor run ever.
Same.
So we're doing. Yo, thanks for the sub for 6 months.
Damn.
What?
Confident in you.
Yeah. Oh, Pixel's a baller. Pixel's great. Oh, she succeeded her thing for once.
Excellent.
W, so just this one left. Servitude.
Just the healer.
Oh, dude, it's all good. You never know what's going on in Twitch nowadays. All right. What? Okay. They're all Dedge?
Do not loot them.
No. I'm just.
Short rest probably, or.
I'm well. Oh, you need it. I already drank juice.
Yeah, I kind of need it, unfortunately.
Yeah, if you need it, you need it.
I'll feel that one later.
Then where's? I need some juice still. Oh wait, never. Oh, I should have used second wind before I short rested. God damn it.
Oh well, live and learn.
What's 10 hit points?
Yeah. Now we do need to remember to. I'm gonna turn passive back off.
True.
Because the hag's getting it.
She's getting it dirty.
Okay.
Though, do we make the deal with her?
I've never made the deal with her, so I don't even know what it is.
It's really good. You get a free stat point.
Can we still kill her?
No.
What do you feel like doing?
Let me look at our character sheets.
Do we think we need the stat point, or do we want her stuff?
What's her... I mean, I've never killed her, actually. What's her stuff? Is it good?
It can be. I've just always killed her because I don't like her.
I love making sketchy deals. It's very much in line with the character I'm making, but I would not be upset if you're like, I don't want to have her betray us later, because she almost certainly will.
This is funny. Like Pixel said, it's interesting that you've never killed the hag, but like you've always done this thing one way, and I've always done it the opposite. So we don't.
So we don't.
I don't know. I'm down for killing her. I'm down for not killing her. It really does not matter to me.
I want to not kill her because honestly, I've always been curious how she betrays us in the future. I know it's gonna happen, but I just don't know how. Here, let me make this easier
do we just
for
fuck
us.
her up a little bit, and then or do we talk to her?
Get her to nearly dead, and then she will talk to us, and then you can demand. She will offer you a boon in exchange for Myrina, and you can demand both. And if you succeed that check, then, you know, she hates you, but she obliges.
Okay. Oh, Featherfall.
Yeah. I don't fuck with this section. I don't.
Oh wait, no. Oh my god.
Well,
I almost Shadowheart. I almost let Oh, you put it in turn-based mode. You saved me with that.
Happy to help. Happy to help.
Okay.
Whoops. That's fine.
And then oh my god, just do the jump chart, please. Woofy. Game. Please. All right. I'm gonna have to do a few jumps, I think.
For sure.
Yeah. Love seeing that failed save.
Oof.
Yeah.
What just took damage? Oh, nothing, I guess. Wet girl battle start? Huh?
I hit in turn. Wait. Wait. A friend says from the fight in case water smoke.
The wet girl strat works.
Did you need
that still? Should be fine. Yeah, you still got 7 rounds of it.
Game, game, game. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. Fuck it. We'll get a new dog.
Was it fighting you that much on it?
The hitbox on this fuck ass dog, dude.
Yeah. He's a big boy. He's a big good boy. Why does he have a muzzle on? I feel like we want him biting. He's got a fucking bird beak on him.
I'm just gonna have to fucking do it. Should have kept it in turn-based.
Sorry.
It's fine. She didn't take that much damage. And the dog set the trap off, so it wasn't there to go off.
Excellent, excellent. Do you want to summon a new animal before we go in?
Yeah, actually, we're gonna, I'm thinking.
I'm gonna slowly walk into a better position. Stop it!
We are all sneaky.
Okay. Do you want to put yourself somewhere specific?
I'm going to keep Jonah up here. I think I'll keep Shadowheart this way. I'm gonna turn that off. Oh. My god. So torches are booby trapped.
Oh, are they?
I tried to turn that torch off and I took fire damage.
Oh, there's a flower underneath you. Or at least there was.
I didn't see it. And it didn't give me the roll for it, which is weird.
Yeah. Maybe they are booby trapped. That's crazy.
Mr. Pig will be right here with you.
Ah. Hello. Okay. I'll stand up.
Okay.
No. Damn. Whoa! Her legendary action. I've never seen it.
Oh god. There are so many more.
Oh,
of her than
that's
normal.
okay. That's okay.
Okay.
I can get rid of a bunch of them.
I got the right one on the first try.
Oh, nice. Well, the rest of them can still cast Hold Person, so you want them gone.
Yeah.
Oh. What the fuck?
casted a spell on her for Hunter's Mark, and it got them all jumbled up again. She just got to move.
Huh.
W.
Sick.
Okay. Let's see. Necrotic or radiant damage, you figure?
I mean, probably radiant. I mean, but your necrotic spells, remember, until you switch her, you can cast it on 2 targets.
Oh no! I'm doing Spirit Guardians.
Oh yeah. Probably radiant.
Oh, it's her.
Huh?
I got it right. I got her on the first time twice.
Oh, it like didn't remember that you had already solved it?
Well, no, she disappeared again when I put Hunter's Mark on her.
Oh.
She redid her fakes and hid back in the crowd again, and I just got it right on the first try with
How the
Shadowheart
fuck?
walking by her with Spirit Guardians up. That's hilarious.
Sick.
Okay. Shadowheart is very fucked right now, but that's fine.
You know what? I'm not gonna action surge yet. I'm gonna chill.
Okay. In a bad place with Shadowheart, but we're fine.
Totally fine.
This'll work. You need to get rid of... Oh, okay. I see what you're doing.
Shoot. Yeah. We're just gonna tap them all.
Yeah.
Where's the
How many are you?
fourth?
Oh, I know what you're doing now.
Oh, the fourth one is the real one, isn't it?
That's right. I get to go this turn too.
Okay, I guess I'll just do level 1 then. Fuck it.
Oh, it's a bonus action, and I can't do it right now. Fine. And I'll make this one disappear.
Oh, I did miss one. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
That could have been extremely bad. Okay. The elevator's coming down.
Another step forward.
Okay. So she is saved.
Careful around the ledge. She will definitely knock your ass into it.
Oh, yeah. I believe it. Weird magic surge. Don't like that.
There's a way.
Do you think okay, she was standing here. And then I saw the character phase over here.
Wait.
And then this one poofed there.
The one on your right is the oh no, shit. Never mind. That's not. They got rid of all the hints. Maybe.
Yeah, they got rid of.
Oh no, they didn't. They didn't. The one on the left is the real one.
The one on the left is Mayrina.
Yes.
This one is Mayrina.
Yes. Pretty sure.
You're positive.
Well, pretty sure.
Okay. I now know what to look for without having to do the hints.
What did you look for?
Okay, so she was standing right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
In one frame, Mayrina poofed up here, and then two of them were here. But as Mayrina poofed away, I watched the Hag's character model do like a weird purpley phase shift in this direction.
Oh.
And then there was magically two of them.
Sick.
I think if you're paying attention when she does it, you can see in the animation which direction the Hag goes.
Fucking awesome.
Okay.
Ah.
You were getting Hunter's Mark put back on you. Sorry, babe. Hunter Mark stays on.
What a sentence. I'm just gonna shoot you, stupid.
Okay. For first trick, help myself. For my second trick, does she count? She does not count. Ooh.
Fighter putting in work.
Risking it for the biscuit here. Oh my god. That's so...
I fucking hate inflict wounds. I have never felt good about that shit.
It should just hit. It should just hit. I upcasted that to level 3.
Oof. Damn, I haven't even used my fancy thing yet.
What did they do to my board? It doesn't have bonus actions.
Oh. Strange.
I don't have bonus actions, so I can't rage.
Okay, we have her. I think on her turn she'll offer us the deal.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay.
Wait just a tick.
Uh-oh.
Oh,
what do I gotta do it?
Waste of time. I'll find a way to return. Always have, always will. But it's
What do we owe knowing?
Just your charisma is not...
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you're
not
right.
the best.
I have something you want.
It's not as bad as it was with the other character. I forget what my charisma is on this one. What do I pick here? This is the part that you've done before. I've never done this.
Go on.
I knew I liked you, dearie. Let me get the girl, and I'll give you power.
Barbarian has advantage on this one, and it's great. It's just...
Just let me keep the girl.
It's just, I'll take both, or I will fucking explode your head. Like...
It's your choice, sweetness.
I don't have options to pick from. It just says continue for me. Is there supposed to be something else here?
Yes, there absolutely is.
This is the thing that's been happening with this game sometimes. Look at my stream.
Uh-oh. Damn, we should have saved.
I don't understand why it does this sometimes, but it does it.
Do you... I don't know how to fix it. If I like suggest one, it doesn't change anything, does it? Oh yeah, it does. Or no, it doesn't. Fuck. I was looking at my OBS.
I can't. Yeah, hold on. I want to see something real quick. Baldur's Gate 3 not only getting continue dialogue options.
If you leave the game, it'll transfer the combo to the next player. There is that. If what you find doesn't work.
Yeah, this happened to me too. This is a Reddit post talking about this issue from 3 years ago.
Woof. Woof.
Which means this is a problem that has never been fixed.
Yep.
Really frustrating. I found out that if I encounter this problem in dialogue in both my single player playthrough and more often in a co-op playthrough hosted by a friend, I or the host quick save F5 while it shows one continue and then reload F8 and then dialogues appear. Yeah, you can save and reload dialogue options. So do a quick save and then reload that quick save.
Nice.
So F5 and then press, once it's done saving, press F8.
Quick saving is disabled in your current rule set. Or quick loading, rather.
Oh, okay. Can you pause menu? Or are you tracking this dialogue with me?
Yeah, I can't. I can't reload a previous save while playing in single save mode.
Oh, it's because it's for honor.
If you leave, it should transfer it to me.
Okay.
And then I can invite you back in.
I will just... Okay.
Can you not?
There we go.
Oh.
It didn't do it at first.
Strange.
Unless I click something wrong. Okay. I'm going to the menu.
Captain left the game. Oh, I think I'm still piloting your character.
But you can see the character options now.
But I can
you get to pick.
I can choose for you.
Yeah.
Okay. God, this is nerve-wracking. I can probably invite you back in, though. Hold on. Let me try and do that. See what that does.
Okay. Waiting for host to accept your request to join. What a fucking thing. It's crazy that this is still a problem in the games.
Right. Okay, where... Am I piloting you?
Oh, I can see the options now. I can see the options.
Nice.
Okay. I accidentally discovered that the other day when my game crashed and Mushy became me, yeah, you take over the character. I knew that part. I didn't know that would fix this problem, though.
Good to know. That wasn't too painful.
Yeah. All right. What do you think? Oh, I have a ranger option.
Yeah,
oh,
ranger option is to refuse.
Yeah.
Which we can do.
Okay. I am down for whatever you want to do.
Let's try...
I just know what I got chosen to be the one put in the situation. I know what I would do, but I do not care. I can metagame the shit out of this for you. Because it's a video game. It's not like we're at the table.
It's true. It's true, I suppose. Yeah, let's try and get both. Your choice: intimidation or deception. They're the same.
Ooh, 20? Okay.
Oh shit! It's frozen for me.
I rolled a 5.
Can I give you guide? Oh no.
I already had that's 6 with my guidance.
Woof.
All right. We have 3 inspirations, so I'm gonna roll again. Crit.
Let's go.
You greedy little ballad. Fine. Here.
We win these?
Yum.
I'll not soon forget this sweetness. You have.
I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you.
What about my husband? What happens to him?
Deals off, you dumb.
Is that all you care about? This makes me not like her even more.
Yeah? I don't know.
Yeah.
She's already fucking sunken herself to rock bottom, so it's fair to grab onto the only good thing you thought you were getting out of this.
No, she did. You're right. She did that.
Oh, for sure. Like, you can always say, well, you shouldn't have gone to the hag in the first place, but like, we're well past that.
Get out of here. Oh, yeah. No, I know how I would answer this. Best of luck, Annie.
It's only the deal that counts. Bye-bye, Petal.
Yeah, you sure are a shrewd negotiator.
Okay.
Okay. What?
So how does this work?
I choose oh no, you're choosing. Good. You choose right now which stat point it increases.
Indolence breeds madness.
I know I would put it in Dex. Is it me choosing for all of us or just me choosing for myself?
Only one person gets to use it. You're choosing the stat point that it's going to increase, and then one of us gets to use it. So
okay, so we choose what it does, and then we get to decide who gets to use it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
So
who need what? You figure.
You.
I already have an 18.
Yeah,
Dex.
you have an 18 Dex, but you use Wisdom as well, right?
A little bit. What's my Wisdom score?
15.
What would you need it for if you need
Charisma.
Charisma? What is your current charisma?
17. So we can bump you up to a +3 Wisdom, which is all your spells, or me to +4 Charisma, which is all my spells.
Let's bump yours up because I can. Yours we'll get more out of yours right now because it'll make your charisma score stronger than what my wisdom score would be.
I would agree with you, but I just didn't want to. I didn't want to say, yeah, give it to me after you fucking rolled for it.
No, say it. You don't have to cherry pick for me. Charisma, okay. Just say, hey, I need that.
I don't
That's what I said with the gloves of archery.
Yeah, but
no, we took the time to do that, which means like you made the decision. You said it was worth it that we would need it.
I think it is worth it either way.
Yeah.
But
see, I just kill her and take her shit. I've never done this.
What is her shit?
Good staff, some good items.
Sick. Some good buff stuff. She has the Staff of Crowns.
Like Pixel, if you think you need it for your build, say so.
I don't need it for my build. I can just wait till the next stat increase. It's just since I'm dual
which is
casting
we both could wait till our next stat increase, but between the two of us, you would get more benefit out of it now than I would.
That is true.
So that's just logic playing into it. Oh, my game crashed.
Excellent. Yep, there it goes.
Or did your game crash? And
my game's still up. I'll invite you back as soon as you have Baldur's Gate booted up again.
Let me boot it up. Huh. What is? Well, we're at the 4-hour mark.
This is true. We could call it here. This would be a good way to call it. I'm just gonna munch.
Yeah, we killed the hag
on my tasty flesh.
Munch on your stuff and don't forget to say
Yippee!
WC. Yeah, this is my hangout scene. And then I made this today. You missed it, Pixel. I sang music this morning.
It was fucking gorgeous.
Yeah. I got where's it at? Over here. I got up here and I sang.
Alrighty.
It was for a follower goal that got met at the beginning of this month, end of last month, and I had been putting off doing it, and so I did it. And
we're all the better for it.
Where do you think we should go?
Good question.
There are a few good people on.
It's true. Oh, why can I hear you? Why can I hear you? I have that tab muted.
Uh-oh. I'm in your walls. Nightmare. I'm taking a look at who all is on my list. We got, on my side, the only people that would jump out at me is Max is on, Jelly, Sarby, and Chase. But I think I picked last time, so I picked Max last time we did this, so why don't you pick this time?
Is that true? I was gonna say, I love rating Max. I think we rated Max last time.
We did because it was my choice. The only reason it feels like you're questioning it is because we took the last week off.
Right. That does sound right.
I chose Max last time, so you picked one.
Yeah, let's rate Jelly. I think. Let me check. How long has she been streaming? Just now. Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. All right. I am going to hop into another VC and do my outro stuff, but this was fun. Can't wait to do it next Saturday.
Hell yeah. Absolutely love doing it with you every Saturday.
Yeah.
Hot and heavy. In the
Yep, every Saturday. Yeah, no, use your words.
Bye, cadets. Bye, Captain.
Bye. We'll see you. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah, I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
I never get to talk to you guys before we leave, and now I have no Fugi. Hold on. Haha! We can at least pretend I have a model for this stream. She's gone. Be afraid. Okay, we are gonna raid Jelly, guys. You already know what's going on. We still have the. Do we still have the fuse chat? We do. I don't know how to stop that, guys. Absolutely scuffed, and we absolutely love it. Copy a raid message. If you're not already in the Discord, you could follow it to know when we are doing our thingies. I'm just following Captain's lead. I'm waiting till he posts the thing, and I'm posting it right after him. We're in sync. Our cycles are in sync. You will see me in 2 days, where we will be doing some more Red Dead Redemption, I think. Probably. Red Dead or Karn. Maybe we'll make a poll for it in the aforementioned Discord. Isn't that a fucking fine plug? Guys, I'm nervous. I don't know why. It's been a weekend. It's been a weekend and a half. Bye, everyone. See you. Love you. Oh, God. I forgot to copy my own raid message. I almost hit raid now without copying my own raid message. Am I a fool? Okay, we're leaving. Bye, 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 bye.